Welcome to Chinese Novel Audiobook. Chapter 1, Izayoi, Talent Perks System. The Ninja Academy has 3 semesters a year. The first semester starts on April 1st and ends in mid-July. The second semester starts in early September and ends at the end of December, and the last is the third semester, which starts in early January and ends at the end of March. Konoha 54, April 1st. The Ninja Academy welcomes the first semester of the new school year. 6th grade students have completed their graduation at the end of March, either becoming official genin, returning to school for remedial studies, being specially recruited by certain departments, or dropping out and no longer becoming ninjas. Other grades are officially promoted to higher grades today. The vacant 1st grade classroom is about to welcome new students who have passed the entrance examination. Izayoi is one of them. Unlike other new students who are sent by their parents or older siblings, Izayoi is one of the few new students who are alone. Similarly, unlike those new students who look enviously at classmates accompanied by their families, Izayoi's gaze towards them does not contain envy or jealousy, only scrutiny. What he scrutinizes is not their appearance, but something only Izayoi can see. Ninja aptitude white. Chakra control green. Chunin aptitude green. Whenever Izayoi stares at them intently, some bubbles will appear around these people. The bubbles have the same color, and some are different, and inside them are fonts of the same color as them. Of course, there are also people who don't have bubbles on them. Either because they have no talent, or because their talent has not even reached the lowest level, such as some life profession talents, which are not in the scope. This is Izayoi's talent perks system. Izayoi has no surname, only a given name. According to the director of the orphanage, this name is because he was born on the evening of June 16. After living in the orphanage until the age of 3, learning to read and speak, and some very ordinary survival skills, Izayoi was sent back home by the director, and then he was taken to the cemetery to see his parents in this life. It turned out that he came from a ninja family, and his parents were orphans without surnames. His father was a chunin of the village, but unfortunately, in a mission, the entire team, including their jonin instructor, died. His mother died of dystocia when she gave birth to him, and when she had her last breath, she did not entrust Izayoi to her husband or her friends, but asked the doctor to entrust him to the orphanage. The orphanage is backed by the village, and they will not covet Izayoi's family property. The fact is indeed so. Izayoi was not surprised that he had to start learning to live independently at the age of 3. After learning what kind of world he had transmigrated to, Izayoi knew that apart from himself, the child of destiny in this world also lived alone at the age of 3. The other party was even more awesome than him, daring to take a walk alone in a deserted snowy night at the age of 3. Naruto World, also known as 5 Villages Melee, the legend of the eyes and black Zetsu's quest for mother. Arriving in this world that entirely revolves around the Otsutsuki clan's family feuds, a world where bloodline is absolute, Izayoi wasn't alarmed. He also didn't feel despair at the fact that he was just an orphan without a surname or any bloodline limit. Because, he also had a cheat. The talent perks system was the golden finger Izayoi triggered when he turned 1 year old. Besides being able to see bubbles on other people, Izayoi could also see a screen in his mind that only he could see. When summoned, even a mirror couldn't reflect it. The screen displayed Izayoi's personal information, as well as a newbie gift pack. However, the newbie gift pack was used by Izayoi when he was 3 years old. Now, his personal information was completely different, very luxurious. Izayoi walked into the Ninja Academy, summoning the screen in his mind. Host: Izayoi. Talent perks: Otsutsuki Bloodline red, Super Cage Aptitude gold, Bloodline Limit Byakugan purple, All Attribute Constitution purple, Medical Genius blue, Chakra Control blue. Points: 25. While other people's bubbles only had 1 or 2, or even none at all. Izayoi's talent perks reached an astonishing 6. However, when he obtained the talent perks system, his talent perk was only 1, Chunin aptitude green. But at the age of 3, Izayoi completed his heaven-defying change of fate, and since then became the strongest talent monster of this era. In terms of talent, there was only someone as strong as him in this era, no one stronger than him. The talent perks were divided into levels: white, green, blue, purple, gold, red. This wasn't the level provided by the talent perks system, but rather something Izayoi had figured out himself. He was very sure that there were other levels above red. As for what color it was, Izayoi didn't know yet. The function of the talent perks system was to allow the host to acquire the talent perks of others. And the means of acquisition were also through exploration. There were currently 2 known methods. The first was to defeat the opponent. In an equal match, there was a high probability of obtaining a low-level perk, and a very small probability of obtaining a high-level perk. An underdog victory had a very high probability of obtaining a high-level perk, and a 100% chance of obtaining a low-level perk. A crushing victory had a very small probability of obtaining a low-level or high-level perk. As for the second method of acquisition, it was the Talent Perks System's Newbie Gift Pack, a free gift once. Izayoi could copy someone else's talent perk. Learning that he had transmigrated to the Naruto world that he was very obsessed with during his student days, and was born on June 16 of Konoha year 48, the same age as the Konoha 11, Izayoi almost unhesitatingly prepared to use this newbie gift pack on Naruto Uzumaki. After all, the other party was the protagonist of this world, and also of this era. The reincarnation of the sage's son, Asura Chakra, inheriting Hagoromo Otsutsuki's sage body, the unactivated Uzumaki bloodline in the original work, the Nine Tails Jinchuriki. Naruto Uzumaki, who possesses 2 nuclear power plants within him, even if he can't pronounce chakra correctly, even if he doesn't know how to extract chakra, the seal and bloodline within him will cause his chakra to increase at all times. As long as the other party has perks related to Asura, or perks related to the sage body, Izayoi only needs to copy them, and he will immediately possess great potential. Besides Naruto Uzumaki, Sasuke Uchiha is also a good choice. Also a reincarnation of the sage's son, inheriting Hagoromo Otsutsuki's sage eye. However, just as Izayoi was looking for them, brushing past a member of the Hyuga clan on the street gave him a flash of inspiration, temporarily dispelling that idea. In the ninja world of this era, the strongest talent freaks are indeed Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha. After all, like Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha, they are both reincarnations of the sage's sons, not only possessing super kage aptitude but also having the escort of the Sage of Six Paths. As long as they realize their potential, they will definitely be able to become super kage level powerhouses. Once they receive the Sage of Six Paths inheritance, they will even break through the limits that Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha did not reach, becoming Six Paths level powerhouses. On Earth, no one in this era has more potential than them. Then, what about outside Earth? Chapter 2, Toneri Otsutsuki's perk. As a transmigrator, Izayoi's narrative level is very high, at least higher than anyone on this planet. Millennia have passed, and many people believe that the Sage of Six Paths and the Shinobi sect are just characters and forces in myths and legends. But Izayoi knows this is true. He also knows that the Sage of Six Paths has a mother and a younger brother. After the 2 brothers joined forces to seal their mother, the Sage of Six Paths became the 10 Tails Jinchuriki and embarked on a journey of atonement. Hamura Otsutsuki then took wives and concubines, developing the clan through procreation. After the Sage of Six Paths was no longer the 10 Tails Jinchuriki, he placed the demonic statue of the Outer Path on the moon. To guard the demonic statue of the Outer Path, Hamura Otsutsuki led a portion of the Otsutsuki clan to migrate to the moon. The branch of the clan that remained on Earth gradually transformed into the Hyuga clan over the millennia. Just as the Sage of Six Paths possessed the ultimate eye technique, Rinnegan, his 2 sons, once their polarities converged, had the hope of obtaining the Rinnegan. Hamura Otsutsuki also had an ultimate eye technique, the Tenseigan, which possessed the power of destruction and creation. And his descendants, as long as they gathered conditions similar to polarity convergence, had the hope of awakening the Tenseigan. Moreover, unlike the difficulty of obtaining the Rinnegan, the Tenseigan also had a secret method of fusing a large number of Byakugan to create a Tenseigan. The Otsutsuki clan on the moon was destroyed because of the latter. Now, on the moon, there should only be Toneri Otsutsuki left. At the age of 3, Izayoi had a flash of inspiration and temporarily dismissed the idea of copying the talent perks of Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha, because he thought of Toneri Otsutsuki. As a descendant of the branch family of the Otsutsuki clan on the moon, Toneri Otsutsuki possesses pure Otsutsuki bloodline. His degree of atavism is equal to that of Asura Otsutsuki and Hagoromo Otsutsuki. This purity allows Toneri Otsutsuki to possess a talent like the sage body. Madara Uchiha only awakened the Rinnegan after fusing Hashirama Senju's cells and growing old. But Toneri Otsutsuki only needed a few days to evolve his Byakugan into the Tenseigan. As soon as he awakened, he could enter Tenseigan chakra mode, condense truth-seeking balls, and unleash the Silver Wheel Reincarnation Explosion and the Golden Wheel Reincarnation Explosion that split the moon. His talent and chakra are even more exaggerated than Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha. If he came to Earth to live, he would be the #1 cheat. If he brought down the medium for using the giant Tenseigan as well, then unless Madara Uchiha and Hashirama Senju were resurrected, or the Sage of Six Paths intervened, he would have the final say in the shinobi world. If he were ruthless, he could seize Hinata's or Hanabi's Byakugan in advance. Then there would be no so-called Shippuden, only Toneri's legend. Unfortunately, Toneri Otsutsuki is a Chunin otaku. Before confirming that the shinobi world is truly beyond saving, he will not come down from the moon unless he comes of age. However, Izayoi knew that Toneri Otsutsuki had come to Earth and Konoha once in his childhood, before his father died, and secretly met Hinata once through the medium of the giant Tenseigan. Then he fell in love with Hinata at first sight, but he did not disturb Hinata's life. Instead, he thought of coming down to propose marriage with the ancient agreement after he came of age. As a result, he did not expect that his fiancée already had someone she liked, and he was just wishful thinking. Izayoi didn't have much to say about this silly, Chunin otaku. He speculated that Toneri Otsutsuki probably came over when Hinata was 3 years old. Because after her 3rd birthday, Hyuga Hazashi's death in place of his brother caused a slight change in Hinata's status. Her subsequent personality made Hiyashi Hyuga completely disappointed in this eldest daughter. Hinata's grandest birthday party was when she was 3 years old. Therefore, Izayoi chose to take a gamble. He would use his only copy perk on Toneri Otsutsuki. He would have plenty of opportunities to obtain the talent perks of Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha, but he only had one chance for Toneri Otsutsuki's talent perk. If he missed it, he would have to wait until 2 years after the end of Shippuden. The personal information on the light screen now proved that Izayoi's gamble was correct. He didn't just wander around outside the Hyuga clan on Hinata's 3rd birthday, he wandered around aimlessly all year. Appearances can be deceiving, but talent perks never lie. Being able to see the bubbles on his targets, no matter how Toneri Otsutsuki and his father disguised themselves, as long as they weren't puppets or invisible, they couldn't escape Izayoi's eyes. Heaven never fails those who are determined, with Izayoi's efforts and caution. He finally saw the blind Toneri Otsutsuki and his father in the crowd on Hinata's 3rd birthday, which was also the day of the Cloud Village Envoy's celebration in Konoha. It must be said that the Cloud Village Envoy was really lucky. The latest novels are first published at. If this father and son had stayed until the evening and dared to kidnap Hinata, they would have been done for. However, this father and son only used the medium of the giant Tenseigan to take a distant look at Hinata, who was celebrating her birthday within the clan instead of attending the celebration, and then left Konoha. Toneri Otsutsuki, who was born without eyes, did not have the Kekkei Genkei Byakugan talent perk. He also didn't have any other low-level perks, only a high-end red bubble, which was Otsutsuki Bloodline. Izayoi had seen such a perk on members of the Hyuga clan, but the color was different. The highest color of the Otsutsuki Bloodline perk on those people was blue. Even Toneri Otsutsuki's father's Otsutsuki Bloodline perk was only purple, not even gold. Only Toneri Otsutsuki's perk color surpassed gold and reached the highest known level of red. Izayoi didn't hesitate at the time and directly copied this perk. In the next 3 years, Izayoi began to defy fate. After completing his first chakra extraction, Izayoi's talent perk, Chunin Aptitude Green, was upgraded to Super Kage Aptitude Gold. As the name suggests, as long as he didn't die young and continued to grow smoothly, he would definitely be able to become an existence like Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha in the future. Once he dug out Hinata or Hanabi's Byakugan for transplantation and condensed truth-seeking balls, he would be a Sage of Six Paths level existence. A few months later, Izayoi unlocked a new talent perk, All Attribute Constitution Purple. So, Izayoi had the same All Attribute Constitution as Tobarama Senju, Hiruzen Sarutobi, Orochimaru, and Kakashi Hatake. At the age of 5, Izayoi unlocked another new perk. At the time, Izayoi was quite frightened. Because he awakened the Byakugan. Yes, awakened the Byakugan, not just his eyes turning into Byakugan. Under the influence of the Otsutsuki bloodline, Izayoi's eyes, like Himawari Uzumaki's, were normal in their usual state. When he activated the Byakugan, the veins in his temples would bulge, and his pupils would turn white. This discovery made Izayoi breathe a sigh of relief, otherwise, he might have had to wear sunglasses all the time, or like Kakashi Hatake in the original story, disguise himself as a reporter and buy colored contact lenses. Chapter 3. Clear goals, 3 red entries. Unlike Naruto, who went from being a great character to a dropout due to the Nine Tails chakra interference. Izayoi, who obtained the Otsutsuki Bloodline, now possesses not only astonishing potential but also an exceptionally strong foundation. The Hyuga clan's Byakugan can see the chakra in the meridians, giving them a unique advantage in training chakra control. After awakening the Byakugan, Izayoi also unlocked the chakra control skill. Before even entering the academy, Izayoi had already learned to climb trees and walk on water. Not to mention the 3-body technique, Izayoi had even mastered the B-rank ninjutsu shadow clone technique and low-level release techniques left behind by his parents. Like Itachi Uchiha, he already possessed the strength to graduate before entering the ninja academy. Naturally, Izayoi effortlessly secured first place in the entrance exam. Therefore, he was assigned to Class 1 of the first year, becoming classmates with the 9 rookie genin. Arriving at the classroom, he found many students already seated inside. Izayoi scanned the room, his gaze settling on a small girl who had also noticed him, her expression one of surprise and delight. With a slight upturn of his lips, Izayoi walked towards her with a clear purpose. The desks in the classroom were long, accommodating 3 people. The girl was sitting in the middle, with no one on either side of her. "Yo, we meet again." Izayoi sat down next to the girl, teasing with a smile. As expected of a young lady who dares to run away from home, the entrance exam was no challenge for you at all. Izayoi-kun. The girl didn't dare to meet Izayoi's gaze, looking down and fidgeting with her fingers, her heart filled with joy and excitement. She was right after all, the Izayoi on the list was indeed the Izayoi who had helped her back then. "We'll be classmates from now on, please take care of me, Hyuga." "No. Hinata-san." Izayoi looked at the girl whose cheeks and ears were flushed red, and said her name with a smile. Hinata subconsciously turned her head to look at Izayoi, and after meeting his gaze, quickly averted her eyes, responding softly, Please take care of me, Izayoi-kun." However, she didn't notice the hint of fervor in Izayoi's gaze as he looked at her. In Izayoi's eyes, 5 bubbles of different colors floated around Hinata. The largest and most prominent of these bubbles was a red one. Princess of the Byakugan, red. Bloodline limit Byakugan, purple. Jonin potential, blue. Otsutsuki Bloodline, blue. Chakra control, blue. The Princess of the Byakugan skill was the main reason Izayoi approached Hinata, and on that snowy night of Hyuga Hazashi's funeral, he deliberately waited outside for Hinata to run away from home, in order to gain the girl's favor. When Izayoi saw this entry, he decided to intercept Uzumaki Naruto, the child of prophecy, and Toneri Otsutsuki, the aggrieved party. It's similar to how the reincarnations of Asura and Indra can awaken the Rinnegan if they obtain each other's power and complete the unification of the 2 poles. Toneri Otsutsuki and Hinata, similarly, only need to obtain each other's power to awaken the Tenseigan. Moreover, their bloodline and Byakugan purity have both reverted to extremely high levels, making them the type that will definitely awaken the Tenseigan. In the original story, Hinata only needed to obtain Toneri Otsutsuki's chakra to complete her defying fate. Unfortunately, this condition is as difficult as ascending to heaven. Therefore, as just a Byakugan princess, with her Otsutsuki bloodline only at the blue level, her upper limit is at most just an elite Jonin. But now, Hinata's fate has already begun to change. Having obtained the Otsutsuki bloodline, red, Izayoi's chakra might also be able to help Hinata defy fate. And Hinata's red entry can allow Izayoi to obtain the power of the Tenseigan. The 2 are simply a match made in heaven. Izayoi only greeted Hinata and didn't talk to her. After all, this was only his second meeting with Hinata. 6-year-old Hinata has already begun learning Gentle Fist. She should be unable to defeat Hyuga Neji, gradually disappointing Hiyashi Hyuga, and her personality has begun to become introverted. After all, Hinata 3 years ago, although equally shy, didn't dare to look Izayoi in the eye. Fortunately, Hanabi hasn't grown up yet, and Hiyashi Hyuga hasn't completely given up on Hinata, choosing to abandon his eldest daughter and cultivate his second daughter. Just giving Hinata a little encouragement to boost her confidence can change her introversion. But that is also a difficult problem. Hinata is the Hyuga clan's young lady. Apart from going to school, she rarely leaves her home. Even if she leaves her home, she is accompanied and guarded by clansmen wearing green vests. Wanting to be alone with her is almost impossible. He has to think of a way. Izayoi supported his cheek with one hand, and gently tapped the table with the index finger of his other hand. At this time, Hinata was secretly sizing up Izayoi, who had a pensive look on his face, and the admiration hidden in her heart resurfaced. Yes, Hinata admired Izayoi. As a peer, she would get lost if she ran out of the house. But he dared to wander alone in the snowy night, and his words and actions were so precocious, like an adult. The latest novel is first published at. He was also the first in the entrance exam. If she could be as good as him, her father wouldn't be disappointed in her. In addition, Izayoi was the only peer Hinata knew besides Hyuga Neji. Even after 3 years, she hadn't forgotten the black-haired, blue-eyed boy with a chubby face named Izayoi. Hinata, who longed for friends, really wanted to take the initiative to talk to Izayoi. But she couldn't do it. She was too useless. Izayoi didn't know what Hinata was thinking. At this time, he also came back to his senses. Because he saw his target again. Uzumaki Naruto, and Uchiha Sasuke. Around them, there were also several bubbles floating, all with the same red bubbles as Hinata. Uzumaki Naruto's talent entries were Sage Body red, Super Cage Potential gold, Uzumaki Bloodline purple, Otsutsuki Bloodline blue. Izayoi didn't see the words Asura and Nine Tails in Uzumaki Naruto's talent entries. However, the level of the Sage Body and the talent entry of the Uzumaki Bloodline indicate that Uzumaki Naruto's Sage Body is different from the Sage Body of the Senju clan and the Uzumaki clan. It is at the same level as the pure Otsutsuki Bloodline. Such a Sage Body is only possessed by Hagoromo Otsutsuki and his son Asura Otsutsuki. In addition to these 4 entries, Uzumaki Naruto also has the cheat of half of the 9 tails. Compared with him, Uchiha Sasuke's talent entries are slightly inferior. Sage Eye red, Cage Level Potential purple, Uchiha Bloodline purple, Otsutsuki Bloodline blue. The unevolved Byakugan Princess's potential is not worth mentioning. Similarly, the unevolved Sage Eye is also not worth mentioning. Without Itachi Uchiha's eyes, and without stimulating Indra's chakra, Uchiha Sasuke, who will go blind at the cage level, is his limit. Only by obtaining the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, or stimulating the true power of the Sage Eye, which is Indra's chakra, can he possess almost infinite dojutsu without changing eyes, and his talent entry will reach the level of Super Cage. Just like Madara Uchiha, who is always beaten by Hashirama Senju, Uzumaki Naruto may be trash now, but when he starts to exert his strength, he can instantly surpass Uchiha Sasuke, who has worked hard for many years. The same was true for the 6 years at the Ninja Academy, and the 3 years of Shippuden. This is the difference between talent and having a cheat. Chapter 4, Do Ninjutsu Need Hand Seals? Hello, students, my name is Iruka Yumino, and I will be your homeroom teacher from now on. As the school bell rang, a young man wearing a green vest walked into the classroom and introduced himself to Izayoi and the others at the podium, then said with a smile, "Before we start the class, let's introduce ourselves to each other, starting with the first row on the left. My name is..." "Hello everyone, my name is Ino Yamanaka, please take care of me. I'm Shino Aburame. Sasuke Uchiha. This great one is Naruto Uzumaki, remember this name, I'm the man who will become Hokage." Quote. Everyone's performance was different, reflecting their personalities. Among them, the most conspicuous was Naruto Uzumaki, who was still disliked by Iruka Yumino. Since it was their first meeting, his arrogant self-introduction was not ridiculed by the whole class. When it was Hinata's turn, she said softly and stutteringly, My name is Hinata Hyuga, please take care of me." Her shy appearance was in stark contrast to the lively and cheerful Ino Yamanaka. Fortunately, this was not an ordinary world, otherwise, such a shy young lady would probably be easily isolated and bullied. "Hello everyone, my name is Izayoi." Izayoi stood up and said his name, a very ordinary self-introduction. However, his face, as cute as Sasuke Uchiha's, attracted the attention of many girls. Although he had long known that the girls in this world were very precocious, Izayoi couldn't help but click his tongue slightly in his heart when he felt those fiery gazes. Starting to live independently at the age of 3, understanding love at the age of 5 or 6, going to the battlefield before the age of 12 during wartime, and becoming a savior at the age of 16 or 17, this world is just so outrageous. Because of this, the title of genius has a very high gold content in the Naruto world. After the self-introduction session ended, it was soon time for the familiar part for Izayoi. Distributing books. However, after receiving those books, the corner of Izayoi's mouth couldn't help but twitch slightly. National language and mathematics, that's normal. But what are biology, medicine, and chemistry? Izayoi suddenly understood somewhat. No wonder the children in this world understood love so early. It seemed that this precociousness was very common. In addition to these books, Haruka Umino also gave each student a scroll. Inside the scroll, the method of extracting chakra was recorded. Chakra is a special energy formed by fusing the physical energy and mental energy extracted from the 130 trillion cells in the human body in proportion, and it is also the key to becoming a ninja. Haruka Umino explained, the entrance exam is to screen students whose spiritual and physical energies meet the standards, and who have a high probability of becoming ninjas. Both knowledge and physical exercise can enhance these two energies, so students who don't have chakra yet must study hard, otherwise you will still be advised to withdraw when the observation period ends. Hearing this, some students from ordinary families who didn't have chakra yet immediately looked nervous. I believe that for a long time to come, they will be the good students that Haruka Umino likes. Izayoi didn't remind them, you're overthinking it. Although the school doesn't explicitly divide students into honors classes and remedial classes, those who can enter class 1 of the first grade, apart from the children of ninja clans, are all excellent talents among the commoners. With just a glance, Izayoi could see that each student had a white starting stat, and many students also had a green stat indicating Chunin aptitude. This means that even if they don't pass the graduation exam, they will still have the strength of a genin in the future. Students with green stats will become Chunin in the future, as long as they don't die prematurely. Ninja clan children like Ino Yamanaka all have Jonin aptitude blue. However, Sakura Haruno's ninja aptitude caught Izayoi's attention. Because her ninja aptitude was only a green level Chunin aptitude. But her chakra control talent stat reached the purple level of a bloodline limit. With such a high level chakra control talent, her future achievements are only Chunin. It's just like Hinata's Byakugan princess being red, but her aptitude is only Jonin. Without a change of fate against the heavens, Chunin is Sakura Haruno's limit. Once she succeeds in changing her fate against the heavens, she will become one of the new generation Sanin. The most up-to-date novels are first published on 69 Shu. After distributing the textbooks and scrolls, Haruka Umino didn't give Izayoi and the others time to relax and started the class directly. The morning was for cultural classes, and the afternoon was for physical education. In addition to physical exercise, the physical education class also distributed pebbles to teach students throwing techniques. Things like the 3-body technique and body flicker technique, as well as the invisibility technique, and kunai and shuriken, were naturally not taught. Even taijutsu duels were not taught. Obviously, the first semester of the first grade is about laying a good foundation and improving knowledge and physical fitness. Izayoi initially participated, but after seeing that there would be no taijutsu duels at this stage, he stopped letting his main body come to the ninja school. Izayoi, who obtained the Otsutsuki Bloodline at the age of 3, now has an exaggerated amount of chakra. Not to mention Naruto Uzumaki, who can't extract chakra yet, even Kakashi Hatake, who could use the multiple shadow clone technique in class at the age of 5 or 6 in the original work, is not as good as him. His shadow clones far surpass Itachi Uchiha in terms of both duration and resistance to damage. Letting a shadow clone go to school in his place, Izayoi's main body used the transformation technique to transform into a young boy and came to a deserted training ground in the wilderness to practice ninjutsu. Wind release, gale palm. On the open space, Izayoi went through the motions of forming hand seals, compressing the wind converted from chakra in his palm, forming a cyclone, and finally slapping it out, turning it into a violent gale, stirring up a large amount of sand and dust. Yes, a pretentious display of hand seals. Because Izayoi doesn't need hand seals to accomplish it. To be precise, currently, apart from auxiliary ninjutsu like the 3-body technique and shadow clone technique, Izayoi doesn't need hand seals for other 5 elements release techniques, he can cast them directly. Undoubtedly, there are differences even among red entries. And the Otsutsuki Bloodline's red entry is of a higher level than the Sage Body, Sage Eye, and even the Byakugan Princess. Not only is the chakra astonishing, but the ninjutsu talent is also exaggerated to the extreme, just like the Otsutsuki clan members before Indra invented hand seals, who could perform 5 elements release techniques without hand seals. Even Hashirama Senju needs to clap his hands together and shout to get what he wants, but Izayoi doesn't. This is not only an extremely powerful ninjutsu talent but also a trump card. When the enemy thinks Izayoi is performing hand seals, if he suddenly casts a ninjutsu, it will definitely catch the enemy off guard. Chapter 5, Izayoi's invitation, summer vacation. Unknowingly, the first semester was already coming to an end. This semester, the first-year students only had cultural studies and physical education. Every day was either studying, exercising, or extracting chakra. Except for class 1 of the first year, students in other classes had been advised to withdraw. Ninjas were just that rare. Not only was the entrance exam difficult, but the graduation exam was also extremely difficult. Because graduation wasn't really graduation. If one couldn't get the approval of a jonin, they would still have to return to school to retake the course. The elimination rate was ridiculously high. And this was only the promotion from trainee ninja to genin. Above genin, there were also chunin and special jonin, as well as all-rounder jonin. However, all of this had nothing to do with Izayoi and the Konoha 11. Except for the first 2 weeks, Izayoi hadn't used his main body to go to school in the time that followed. He wouldn't come until there was a taijutsu duel. After all, the reason Izayoi entered the ninja academy was for Hinata, Naruto, and Sasuke. To be precise, he had his eyes on their red perks. Before graduating from the ninja academy, Izayoi had to trigger their red perks, at least 1 or 2. Otherwise, once he graduated from the ninja academy, it would be much more difficult for Izayoi to trigger their red perks. Not because of the difference in strength, but because the opportunities to meet and fight would be greatly reduced. In the original story, the Konoha 11 would meet again after graduation during the Chunin exams. Graduation at the end of March, and the Chunin exams on July 1st, these were important dates every year. There was a season in between. Ding ling ling. As the school bell rang, another day came to an end. The students who had physical education all afternoon were still full of energy. Izayoi-kun, do you want to play ninja games with us? Izayoi, are you going home together? Some students left school to go home, while others stayed at school, inviting other classmates to form small groups. Izayoi also received many invitations. He was a very popular and influential figure in the class. Although only a shadow clone was attending school, and his only targets were Hinata, Naruto, and Sasuke, Izayoi didn't give others the cold shoulder, but treated them with a smile. Even his rejections were very tactful. Today was the same. Facing the invitations from those male and female classmates, Izayoi's shadow clone put his hands together and said apologetically with a smile, "Sorry, I already have plans with someone else. Maybe next time, definitely next time. He's been asked out again. Izayoi-kun is really popular. Then next time, let's all play ninja games together." The classmates looked disappointed, but they didn't force the issue. After Izayoi's shadow clone left the school, he went into a small alley and automatically dispelled. The memories and fatigue all returned to the main body. Digesting today's memories, having finished his training, and resting at home while waiting for the fatigue to accumulate, Izayoi murmured, "The holidays are in a few days, it's time to start taking action." That day, July 20th. After the morning classes ended, it was lunchtime. Some students lived relatively close to the school and chose to go home for lunch. Other students brought lunch boxes to school. Some ate in the classroom, while others went outside to eat their lunch boxes. Izayoi usually went home for lunch because it was a shadow clone attending school. But today, Izayoi rarely came with his main body and even brought a lunch box. He and Hinata were eating lunch boxes in the classroom. In the span of 3 months, Izayoi and Hinata had become friends. Although they weren't at the point of sharing everything, they knew each other's hobbies and some small secrets. For example, Hinata's hobby was pressed flowers. And Hinata also knew that her deskmate was actually just a shadow clone. When she first found out, Hinata's small mouth was slightly open, her beautiful eyes widened, and she looked surprised. Then, the way she looked at Izayoi became even more admiring. In a situation where the Ninja Academy hadn't even taught the 3-body technique, Izayoi had actually mastered the shadow clone technique, which was simply an incredible thing. While eating lunch with Hinata, Izayoi suddenly said, "Hinata, the holidays start tomorrow, what are you planning to do?" "I should still be training at home," Hinata replied softly. "Do you want to train with me?" Izayoi extended an invitation. "See, can I?" Hinata looked at Izayoi with surprise. Then, before Izayoi could answer, she shook her head with a depressed expression. "That won't do, father doesn't allow me to go out casually." Ever since the kidnapping incident, Hinata had to be accompanied by a guard if she wanted to go out alone. Besides, she can't go out frequently, because she has already entered the Ninja Academy, and there is an Uchiha in her class. For the sake of the clan's honor, she must work hard to cultivate and not be suppressed by the Uchiha clan. Hey, don't worry about these. Izayoi grinned and said, I'm just asking you, do you want to go out and play during the holidays, and cultivate with me? Yes. Hinata lowered her head and ate, answering in a voice as soft as a mosquito. Okay, I'll help you tomorrow, then. Izayoi leaned close to Hinata's ear and whispered his plan. The heat brushed against her ear, and Hinata's cheeks and ears quickly turned red, her hand holding the chopsticks trembling slightly. This was the first time she had been so close to Izayoi, and the immunity she had built up over the past 3 months of training instantly returned to zero. Fortunately, Hinata's personality was not as outrageous as in the original work, and she didn't faint from shyness. However, with her mind blank, she forgot what Izayoi was saying. Remember, you have to be proactive tomorrow, otherwise my plan will definitely be seen through, Izayoi instructed. Oh. Hinata nodded blankly, looking adorably foolish. Then, she looked up at Izayoi again. Izayoi-kun, what did you just say? Izayoi. Then, with a pop, he flicked Hinata's forehead without mercy, and under the girl's pitiful expression, he repeated the plan again. Hinata, covering her forehead, had a slight glint in her beautiful eyes. The next day, the Ninja Academy entered a 40-day summer vacation. Izayoi walked out of his house and came to a small alley. With a bang, a sound like a balloon popping, echoed in the alley. Then a blonde girl wearing a hat, but still showing her hair color, trotted out of it and went straight to the Hyuga clan. If the classmates from Class 1 were here, they would definitely recognize that this girl was Ino Yamanaka. Hello, my name is Ino Yamanaka. I'm here to find Hinata to go out and play. We made an appointment yesterday. Arriving at the gate of the Hyuga clan, Izayoi, who had transformed into Ino Yamanaka using the transformation technique, smiled sweetly at the gatekeepers. The two gatekeepers looked at each other. Please wait a moment. One of the gatekeepers carefully sized up Izayoi, bowed politely, and then walked into the clan grounds. Before long, he came out from inside. Behind him was a little girl in a white trench coat, none other than Hinata. Hinata, who came jogging over, exchanged a smile with Izayoi, who had transformed into Ino Yamanaka. The plan was going very smoothly, the young lady had left. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 6, Izayoi's Plan. Izayoi-kun, that's great, we succeeded. Leaving the clan grounds with Izayoi, Hinata could no longer contain the excitement in her heart, her voice trembling slightly. Calm down, be careful, your father sends guards to secretly follow us and hear what you said, Izayoi reminded with a smile. Hearing this, Hinata quickly covered her small mouth, secretly looking around, extremely cute. Let's go, I'll take you to a place. Izayoi wasn't sure if there were any guards following in the dark, and he didn't undo the transformation technique. Instead, he led Hinata away from the central street and towards the training grounds in the wilderness. Shadow Clone Technique. After entering the forest, Izayoi created a shadow clone, which disappeared using the body flicker technique. Before long, Izayoi dispelled the transformation technique. Seeing this, Hinata looked delighted and said, Izayoi-kun, is no one following us? Yeah, it's confirmed, no one is following us. Izayoi nodded, grinned, and said, I'll teach you a trick later. Practice it at home after you go back. If your father sees it, he probably won't stop you from going out in the future. Hearing this, the joy on Hinata's face deepened. Transforming into Ino Yamanaka to invite Hinata out. This was Izayoi's plan. Otherwise, if he invited her himself, there was no way Hinata would come out. At best, he would have made a wasted trip. At worst, Neji Hyuga, who had received orders, might come to warn him, or he might be moved to another position in the class, or even another class. Children might not know what was going on. But Izayoi knew clearly that these were the methods of adults. In this world where daimyo and nobles existed, the class division was even more obvious than in his previous life. Hinata was the young lady of a prestigious ninja clan, while Izayoi was just a commoner orphan without even a surname. There was a chasm between them. If Izayoi was a girl, he might still have hope of becoming friends with Hinata. But he was a boy. To prevent Hinata from falling in love with him, and to prevent the bloodline limit from leaking out, neither Hiyashi Hyuga nor the clan elders of the main house would allow Izayoi and Hinata to get too close. Unless Izayoi's value was extremely high. If he was a commoner genius worth recruiting, then he would be qualified to be adopted into the family. If he was like Naruto Uzumaki, a hero of Konoha, a savior of the ninja world, then he could marry the young lady of the main house. Before proving his worth, Izayoi could only use some small tricks. Ino Yamanaka was the young lady of the Yamanaka clan, one of the new generation's Ino Shikacho trio. Even if her strength was poor, she could still become a big figure in the intelligence department through the clan's secret techniques in the future, someone who wielded real power. The Ino Shikacho trio were allies as one, and if among the 9 Konoha rookies, who was qualified to be friends with Hinata, it would definitely be Ino Yamanaka. Only by transforming into Ino Yamanaka could he invite Hinata out, with a high probability of no guards following. If he wasn't worried that his strength would continue to increase, widening the gap with Hinata, and making it harder to trigger a red entry, Izayoi really wouldn't want to take such a risk. Once the first Chunin exam arrived, and he won the title of top student, he would have a bit more confidence. However, compared to Naruto and Sasuke's red entries, Izayoi wanted to trigger Hinata's red entry even more. As long as he awakened the Tenseigan, he would have nothing to fear. So he didn't want to miss this vacation. Arriving at the deserted training ground, Izayoi looked at Hinata and said, "Hinata, have you learned the 3-body technique?" "Not yet." Hinata shook her head and said, "Father told me to focus on practicing the gentle fist, and only when the school teaches other ninjutsu can I practice those in my spare time. In that case, I won't teach you the 3-body technique either." Izayoi smiled and said, "I'll teach you a technique that can improve your chakra control, which will be twice as effective whether you're practicing your clan's gentle fist or learning the shadow clone technique." Hinata widened her beautiful eyes, looking surprised. "Izayoi-kun, you want to teach me the shadow clone technique?" "That's right." Izayoi nodded and said, "In the future, my main body will rarely go to school. You can come here to find me at any time, or practice the shadow clone technique, and secretly let the shadow clone go to class like me, while the main body comes here to practice with me." Hearing this, Hinata was very tempted. After learning that Izayoi was using a shadow clone to attend class, Hinata had the idea of learning the shadow clone technique. For no other reason than not wanting to be left too far behind by Izayoi. But just like she said, Hiyashi Hyuga only let her focus on learning the gentle fist and would not teach her anything else, nor would he allow her to learn anything else. Don't even mention the shadow clone technique, Hinata didn't even know the 3-body technique. Now, hearing that Izayoi wanted to teach her the shadow clone technique, and that she could secretly come here every day to practice with Izayoi, enjoying both friendship and the freedom she craved, Hinata was naturally extremely tempted. Seeing her expression, Izayoi knew what she was thinking. "Come over here, I'll teach you how to improve your chakra control." Izayoi smiled at Hinata, then came to a large tree that took several people to hug. He formed the snake hand seal and said to Hinata, "By forming the hand seal, gather the chakra at the soles of your feet, then overcome the fear in your heart, like this." Under Hinata's wide eyes and surprised gaze, Izayoi raised his right foot and stepped on the tree trunk. As soon as his right foot stepped on the tree trunk, Izayoi raised his left foot and stepped on it. With both feet off the ground, his body stood upright in front of Hinata. Then, one foot after another, as if walking on flat ground, Izayoi walked from the bottom of the tree to the top of the tree. Turning to face Hinata below, Izayoi's body formed a right angle on the tree, and he smiled, "Climbing trees with your feet, this is the technique I'm teaching you." So amazing. Looking at Izayoi, who had escaped the pull of gravity, Hinata was stunned. Walking down from the tree, Izayoi smiled, "Climbing trees with your feet is only the first stage, there's also the more difficult task of walking on water with your feet. As long as you learn these 2 techniques, whether it's the 3-body technique, the shadow clone technique, or the body flicker technique, none of them will be difficult for you." Can I really learn them?" Hinata was a little unconfident. "Don't underestimate yourself, you are a Hyuga clan's young lady." Izayoi patted Hinata's shoulder and encouraged her, "Go try it, don't be afraid of falling, I'll catch you. If you fall too far behind me, I won't wait for you." The last sentence, Izayoi said with a hint of jest, as if teasing her. It was just this sentence that strengthened Hinata's heart, and she nodded vigorously, yes. She had already disappointed her father, and she absolutely couldn't let Izayoi down again, and even more so, she didn't want to lose her only friend. Chapter 7, Hinata's Changes. Hinata stood under a large tree, forming an unformed seal with her hands, mobilizing the chakra within her body, and gathering it at the soles of her feet as Izayoi had instructed. Immediately, she raised her right foot and stepped onto the tree trunk. Then Hinata felt as if the soles of her feet were glued, sticking tightly to the bark. Feeling this, Hinata felt somewhat relieved, and then raised her left foot and stepped up as well. Just like Izayoi had done earlier, Hinata's body was horizontal in the air. Holding her breath, Hinata took a third step. Ah! In the next second, Hinata's expression changed drastically, and she cried out in surprise. Her feet, which had been stuck to the bark, suddenly came loose, and her whole body was about to fall to the ground. Just then, two arms caught Hinata and straightened her body. Izayoi chuckled, "Don't be afraid, I told you, I'll catch you." "Izayoi-kun, I'm sorry," Hinata said with her head lowered, looking like she had disappointed him. "Why are you apologizing to me?" Izayoi reached out again and patted Hinata's shoulder, encouraging her, "It's normal to fail, it's already amazing that you can stick both feet on the first try. When I was practicing, I tried more than a dozen times before I succeeded." This was a lie. Izayoi succeeded in one try and even walked up many steps. Neither Naruto Uzumaki nor Sasuke Uchiha had chakra control in their talent entries. And Izayoi and Hinata's chakra control both reached the blue level. With this level of talent, not to mention climbing trees and walking on water, even medical ninjutsu and sensory ninjutsu, as well as sealing techniques and barrier techniques, are easier to cultivate than those without chakra control talent. Gentle fist, which involves injecting chakra into the human body, is a type of chakra control. As long as Hinata has enough chakra and someone to guide her, she should be able to learn to climb trees quickly. "Keep going, I believe you'll be able to climb to the top of the tree soon." Yes. Encouraged, Hinata's confidence greatly increased. She formed hand seals again, gathered chakra at the soles of her feet, and then stepped on the tree trunk, her body quickly becoming horizontal in the air again. Perhaps because of the sense of security Izayoi gave her, Hinata didn't hold her breath this time, but took the third step very naturally. The previous situation, where she couldn't control the chakra in her other foot when she took the third step, lost her balance, and caused the chakra in both feet to disappear, did not occur. Hinata controlled the chakra in her feet very well, and the soles of her shoes were firmly stuck to the tree trunk. Step 4, Step 5, Step 6. It wasn't until the 8th step was completed, and the 9th step was taken, that Hinata lost her rhythm. The chakra in her feet lost balance again, and her body fell. The amazing thing was that Hinata wasn't scared at all, nor did she cry out in alarm. She even had a hint of anticipation in her heart. As expected, her body didn't crash onto the hard ground, but instead fell into a warm embrace. Izayoi, who caught Hinata, maintained the princess-carried position, looked down at Hinata, and praised without reservation, "Amazing, Hinata, you were able to reach that height on only your second try. You truly are a genius." Hee. Hinata didn't feel shy, but instead laughed happily. The praise she received today was more than she had received in the past few years combined. Is this the feeling of being recognized? Hinata, whose personality hadn't yet become as unconfident and easily discouraged as in the original story, suddenly felt more motivated and confident. Her beautiful eyes sparkled, and she took the initiative to say, "Izayoi-kun, put me down, I want to try again." "All right." Izayoi saw all of Hinata's changes. Seeing the girl become confident, Izayoi was also happy for her. A dignified young lady from a wealthy clan, yet in the original story, she became so cowardly and inferior. It was clear what kind of high-pressure environment she grew up in. Now that he had come to this world and chosen to intercept Naruto Uzumaki and Toneri Otsutsuki, Izayoi wanted to change this girl. Even if she didn't become like the delinquent big sister in the Infinite Tsukuyomi, she shouldn't completely waste the Otsutsuki clan's genes like in the original story. Starting with changing her personality, Izayoi wanted to raise her into the person he wanted her to be. Hinata's talent was very good. After all, among the 4 girls of the Konoha 12, she was the only one who came from a wealthy clan and possessed one of the 3 great dojutsu, the Byakugan. What she lacked was confidence. When she regained her confidence, she would shine with a dazzling light. Climbing trees and walking on water didn't require much chakra, only control. This control could be achieved either through hard work and practice, or purely through talent. In the original story, Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha were the former, while Sakura Haruno was the latter. And Izayoi and Hinata were also the latter. Hinata, who was able to take 7 or 8 steps on her second try, didn't regress on her third try. Instead, she improved again, taking more than 10 steps before falling again. Izayoi still steadily caught her. By the 4th time, Hinata didn't fall again, she successfully climbed to the top of the tree. Izayoi-kun, I did it. Standing on the treetop, Hinata didn't take in the surrounding environment from the height, but instead shared her joy with Izayoi below at the first moment. Amazing, you climbed to the top of the tree on your 4th try. Hinata, you're much better than me. Izayoi gave a thumbs up, praising her without reservation. Hee. Hinata, praised, smiled happily again. Both of them were receiving guidance, but the feeling Izayoi gave her was completely different from her father. When receiving gentle fist instruction from her father at home, Hinata only felt nervous. Even if she completed the assignments Hiyashi Hyuga set, she wouldn't receive a word of praise. Sometimes, she would even be criticized because she didn't do as perfectly as her cousin. In contrast, here with Izayoi, she received the praise she had always wanted. The ease different from tension, the joy different from apprehension, seemed to wash over Hinata's soul, making her love cultivation. Coming down from the treetop as if walking on flat ground, Hinata looked at Izayoi with anticipation and asked, Izayoi-kun, is walking on water the same as climbing trees? Yes, but it's more difficult. Izayoi nodded and smiled. Climbing trees only requires sticking to the trunk, but water is flowing. If you want to stick to the surface of the water, your control ability must be increased several times. I won't teach you now, but you can go home and try using a bathtub or water tank. When your chakra amount is a little higher, I will teach you the real water walking and the shadow clone technique. Okay. Hinata nodded repeatedly. Seeing Hinata so well behaved, Izayoi finally revealed his true colors and smiled. Next, I'll teach you taijutsu sparring. By the way, let me learn about your Hyuga clan's pressure point strike. Okay. The simple-minded Hinata naturally didn't know Izayoi's true purpose. Having already sparred with her cousin many times at home, she still nodded obediently, not feeling that there was anything wrong with practicing taijutsu sparring, which the school hadn't taught yet. Chapter 8. Level Gap, the Use of Points. Throughout the entire summer vacation, Izayoi was training with Hinata. Every day, he would first confirm Ino Yamanaka's location, then use the transformation technique to invite Hinata out. The two would go to the abandoned training grounds, either practicing tree climbing or engaging in taijutsu sparring. Having gained friendship and found confidence, Hinata's transformation during this summer vacation was astonishing. It wasn't just her strength, but also her temperament. Hiyashi Hyuga was the first to notice the change in his eldest daughter. When he learned that Hinata was practicing water walking, he realized that her going out wasn't just about making friends and playing. Izayoi also noticed that someone was secretly monitoring him and Hinata. However, Izayoi didn't hide it. Instead, he prepared to test the waters and see Hiyashi Hyuga's attitude. That day, Izayoi found a reason to show Hinata how he could walk on water. In addition, Izayoi also demonstrated the shadow clone technique in low-level wind release, as well as completely overwhelming Hinata in taijutsu sparring. Then, the next day, Izayoi once again transformed into Ino Yamanaka and went to the Hyuga clan to invite Hinata out. The moment he saw Hinata come out, he knew Hiyashi Hyuga's attitude. This head of the prestigious clan had tacitly approved of Hinata training with him. Izayoi's identity was no secret to these ninja clans. A commoner orphan from a ninja family, who hadn't even finished 3 semesters in his first year, had already mastered tree climbing and water walking, which even the ninja academy didn't teach, and could also use the shadow clone technique in low-level wind release. Such talent and chakra reserves undoubtedly made him a commoner genius of this era. Hinata would have greater motivation training with such a genius. This could be seen from Hinata's efforts to practice water walking at home, as well as the changes in her personality and temperament. Although Hiyashi Hyuga was somewhat disappointed with his eldest daughter's performance, he hadn't yet discovered Hanabi's talent, so he hadn't given up on Hinata or considered nurturing his second daughter. Seeing such a big change in Hinata just from making a friend, Hiyashi Hyuga could only feel joy. As for the idea of separating them, Hiyashi Hyuga didn't have it. Firstly, the two were too young, and it should only be pure friendship at this point. Secondly, in his eyes, Izayoi and Hinata were impossible. The Hyuga clan's Byakugan could not be allowed to spread. Izayoi was just a tool to change Hinata. He would constantly observe the relationship between Izayoi and Hinata, and when one side changed, Hiyashi Hyuga would intervene and tell them this cruel reality. Unless Izayoi was super outstanding, like the 4th Hokage Minato Namikaze, the two would have no future. Izayoi and Hinata were unaware of all this. Seeing that Hiyashi Hyuga didn't stop him and Hinata from playing together, Izayoi was completely relieved. While teaching Hinata the 3-body technique and chakra control skills, he also used taijutsu sparring to try to trigger Hinata's red perk. This summer vacation was fruitful for both Izayoi and Hinata. Hinata has already mastered the skills of tree climbing and water walking, and has also learned the three-body technique. However, possibly due to insufficient chakra reserves, she hasn't learned the shadow clone technique yet. In addition, her pressure point strike has also improved remarkably. Within Izayoi's talent perks, there's a perk called Medical Genius. His mother in this life was a medical ninja, and her legacy included scrolls of basic medical ninjutsu, which Izayoi had already mastered. In order to trigger the Byakugan Princess's red perk, Izayoi, after initially holding back for the first few days to give Hinata some time to adapt, went all out afterward, mercilessly beating Hinata. After the beating, he would then heal Hinata. Although Neji Hyuga is full of hatred towards Hinata, with Hiyashi Hyuga watching from the side, he doesn't dare to harm Hinata at all. But Izayoi really hits her, showing no tenderness or consideration for women. Regardless of anything else, he beats her first and then comforts her. Hinata, constantly being beaten, naturally saw her combat experience soar, and her attacks became more decisive, mercilessly striking chakra into Izayoi's body. Beating and then healing has become a habit for Hinata, and she will definitely not be as kind as in the original story, unwilling to hurt her sister, leading to her loss to Hanabi, who is 5 years younger than her. It was precisely this obvious change that made Hiyashi Hyuga completely acquiesce to Izayoi and Hinata's trysts. And this summer, although Izayoi didn't trigger the Byakugan Princess's red perk, his improvement was equally obvious. Through taijutsu sparring with Hinata, Izayoi has already stolen the Hyuga clan's pressure point strike. After testing Hiyashi Hyuga, Izayoi also used the excuse of guidance to have Hinata secretly bring out a human acupuncture point chart and a pressure point strike scroll. Izayoi has already mastered the human body's acupuncture points and the technique of striking chakra into the body. Izayoi is not interested in the 8 trigrams palm, but he is very interested in this technique of sealing the enemy's chakra flow by striking acupuncture points. It might have miraculous effects when fighting enemies. Although he didn't trigger a red perk, Izayoi also triggered 2 perks from Hinata this summer. One is the blue perk, Chakra Control, which Izayoi also has. At that time, a prompt also sounded in Izayoi's mind. Ding! You have obtained the talent perk Chakra Control Blue, which overlaps with your own talent perk. Merge or decompose. Izayoi chose to merge. After the fusion, Chakra Control did not turn purple, it was still blue. However, in terms of chakra control, Izayoi felt a significant improvement. At that moment, Izayoi finally understood why Sakura Haruno was able to surpass Hinata, who had been practicing gentle fist since childhood, and Shizune, who had been studying under Tsunade since childhood, in just 3 years. It's just like how both have the Otsutsuki bloodline, but the Hyuga clan is completely incomparable to the lineage on the moon. Although both are chakra control, there is a world of difference between blue and purple. Even fusing 2 blue chakra control skills wouldn't reach the purple level. Yet, with purple chakra control, Sakura Haruno learned advanced medical ninjutsu in just 3 years, along with the Senju clan's chakra burst, and the S-rank yin seal and strength of 100 ceilings technique. Besides chakra control, Izayoi also gained a purple perk, the bloodline limit, Byakugan. Unfortunately, a bloodline limit is just a bloodline limit, and the Byakugan princess is the Byakugan princess. If Izayoi didn't have the bloodline limit, Byakugan, this perk would only give him a pair of Byakugan, instead of giving him the Byakugan purity of both the Byakugan and Hinata's Byakugan. Izayoi chose to decompose this perk. Fusing the Byakugan would definitely increase Izayoi's Byakugan purity. But awakening the Tenseigan is impossible. It's like fusing 2 chakra control blue skills won't result in a purple perk. The Otsutsuki clan sacrificed the entire branch family's Byakugan to fuse the Tenseigan. The final form of the giant Tenseigan might have even fused the main family's Byakugan. With the Otsutsuki clan's bloodline purity, their Byakugan purity is definitely higher than the Hyuga clan's. Izayoi wants to rely on fusing Byakugan to evolve the Tenseigan, who knows how many perks he would need to fuse to make it enough. Fusing 2 perks is just a waste. Izayoi doesn't lack that bit of purity. After decomposing the bloodline limit, Byakugan purple Izayoi gained over 1,000 points, and the panel also changed. Host: Izayoi. Talent perks: Otsutsuki Bloodline Red Super Cage Aptitude Gold Bloodline Limit, Byakugan Purple All Attribute Constitution Purple Medical Genius Blue Plus, Chakra Control Blue Plus. Points: 1791. A plus sign appeared after medical genius and chakra control, indicating they can be upgraded. This is the use of points. Chapter 9, Izayoi's rejection. Points can only be obtained by decomposing perks. Izayoi knew this when he was 3 years old. At that time, in order to reasonably appear near the Hyuga clan, he made a group of little friends and played ninja games with them. Because he was too popular, he was disliked by his peers and had fights with some children. Among them, a few children had ninja aptitude with white perks. After these perks were revealed, the system prompt was followed by the same options, merge or decompose. After decomposing those perks, Izayoi obtained 25 points. Each white perk, when decomposed, yields a random single-digit number of points. Now, decomposing a purple perk yields a 4-digit number of points at once. With this, the blue perk can be upgraded. So, how many points are needed to upgrade a blue perk? Izayoi was very curious and couldn't help but click the plus sign behind chakra control. Immediately, his panel changed again. Host, Izayoi. Talent perks, Otsutsuki Bloodline, red, Super Cage Aptitude, gold, Bloodline Limit Byakugan, purple, All Attribute Constitution, purple, Chakra Control, purple, Medical Genius, blue. Points, 793. The Chakra Control perk changed from blue to purple. And behind Medical Genius, there was no plus sign displayed. The points also decreased by 999. Perk levels are divided into white, green, blue, purple, gold, and red. Decomposing a white perk randomly grants single-digit points, decomposing a purple perk grants 4-digit points, and upgrading a blue perk requires a 3-digit number of points. Is this number random or fixed? Izayoi murmured in his heart, if it's fixed, does that mean upgrading white to green costs 9 points, green to blue costs 99, blue to purple costs 999, purple to gold costs 9,999, gold to red costs 99,999, and red to an unknown new level costs 999,999 points. Izayoi didn't know. He didn't have any low-level perks below blue, nor did he have a large number of points to test. Even if he had extra points, Izayoi wouldn't use them to upgrade low-level perks. Except for special perks like Byakugan and Chakra Control, Izayoi didn't plan to upgrade any perks below red. As long as he awakened the Tenseigan, he would have a large number of dimension-reducing moves. When developed to the extreme, he would even possess 6 paths level strength. A pair of eyes would be enough for Izayoi to survive until the final battle of Shippuden. Instead of wasting points on trash perks, it would be better to use them to upgrade the Otsutsuki Bloodline. As long as the Otsutsuki Bloodline is upgraded again, its purity will definitely be on par with the Otsutsuki clan from outer space. At that time, other colors of Rinnegan might emerge, and even abilities like Karma and Divine Techniques. Of course, these are just speculations, and it's still early for Izayoi. Time came to September 1st. The Ninja Academy began its second semester. This semester, Izayoi finally attended classes in person, but only in the afternoon. In the second semester, the mornings were still dedicated to cultural studies, while the afternoons, in addition to physical education and shuriken throwing, also included taijutsu sparring. Unfortunately, in this taijutsu sparring, Haruka Umino matched students randomly, and Izayoi wasn't matched with Naruto Uzumaki or Sasuke Uchiha, nor was he matched with Hinata. Haruka-sensei, can I request to fight Sasuke? When he heard that the matches were random, Izayoi actively sought out Haruka Umino, wanting to fight Sasuke Uchiha. Haruka Umino hesitated, but shook his head and said, there will be no special treatment in taijutsu sparring. Its purpose is to remind everyone that the enemies you encounter may be evenly matched, weaker than you, or even stronger. You must adapt to evenly matched battles, as well as crushing and being crushed. Improve in hard battles, gain a sense of accomplishment in victory, feel bitterness in defeat, and then continue to grow. I understand, Haruka-sensei. Seeing that Haruka Umino didn't agree, Izayoi didn't force it. He planned to challenge Sasuke Uchiha after school. However, Sasuke Uchiha's answer after school made Izayoi's lips twitch slightly. Sasuke, want to have a fight? Sorry, I'm not interested. I still need to go home and train. Sasuke Uchiha, who wasn't yet an Avenger, wasn't as aloof as in the original story, but he still refused Izayoi's challenge without hesitation, and trotted home with a look of anticipation. After the Nine Tails rampage, the Uchiha clan was suspected of being the mastermind behind the release of the Nine Tails, and their clan territory had to be moved from the central district to near the Naka River. Sasuke Uchiha, who hadn't yet mastered the body flicker technique, needed a while to get home from the ninja academy. He just wanted to go back and train with his brother, and had no time to waste on Izayoi. Izayoi didn't even have time to provoke the Uchiha clan and goad Sasuke Uchiha into a duel before the other party had already run off. Izayoi was very helpless about this. He didn't change his target to challenge Naruto Uzumaki either. Although the year-end exam to determine the top student hadn't yet taken place, Naruto Uzumaki's overall score in the first semester was already the lowest in the grade. After all, even the worst students knew how to pronounce the words, chakra. Only Naruto Uzumaki could mispronounce the three words chakra even after graduation, which shows that his academic performance, like the Chunin exams, was either a blank paper or filled with random answers. His body was somewhat malnourished, and his physical education scores were not even in the middle. As a top student, Izayoi's sudden challenge to a dropout would easily attract the attention of the Anbu, and even Hiruzen Sarutobi and Danzo Shimura, who were constantly watching Naruto. The former was fine, but the latter might suspect that Izayoi knew something, or think that Izayoi was a pawn sent by someone to approach Naruto. To avoid any unforeseen circumstances, they are very likely to take some kind of action. At that time, Izayoi's situation will become very passive. This is not what he wants. Therefore, Izayoi's targets are temporarily only Hinata and Sasuke Uchiha. Izayoi, having been rejected by Sasuke Uchiha, did not pester him. It is now September of Konoha year 54, and there are only 3 months left until the end of the year. Next year will be the year of the filial sons clan massacre incident. At that time, Sasuke Uchiha, who will have become an Avenger, will definitely not refuse Izayoi's challenge again. So the next day, Izayoi still used his main body to attend class, but he did not actively apply to fight Sasuke Uchiha, nor did he issue a challenge after class. Being matched with Sasuke Uchiha and Naruto Uzumaki is certainly a good thing. But the other classmates are not bad either. After all, in addition to the two saviors of the ninja world in this class, there are also the new generation of Ino Shikacho and the censor team. The other students are all guaranteed to have ninja aptitude white. Each one has perks, and even if it only yields a white perk, it can be decomposed for single-digit points. And the Konoha 11 have blue and purple, and even gold and red perks. Unearthing any one of them would be a huge gain. Unsure whether shadow clones can yield perks, Izayoi naturally could not be absent from the afternoon classes. Chapter 10. Gentle on the outside, firm on the inside, Izayoi who is full of a sense of accomplishment. December 21st, Konoha 54. Before they knew it, the second semester had come to an end. This semester, the first-year students had undergone very obvious transformations. In the first semester, they only had cultural classes and physical education class, and without any practical experience, they were no different from those who hadn't entered the school yet. The taijutsu sparring added in the second semester allowed them to grow through pain, shedding some of their childishness. However, there was also a side effect, which was that it taught some students to solve problems with violence. Fights or brawls at the slightest disagreement, or incidents of bullying classmates, occurred frequently. More importantly, the teachers and the school did not stop these. Obviously, in their eyes, cowardly guys were not worthy of becoming ninjas. Rather than being killed while doing missions after graduation, it was better to be bullied by their own people and choose to drop out and become an ordinary person. Therefore, in various grades and classes, there had been incidents of poor students trying to bully top students. Like Itachi Uchiha back then, like Neji Hyuga, like Sasuke Uchiha. They all had one thing in common, that was that they were handsome, geniuses, had a cold personality, and were very popular with girls. However, these popular guys didn't like to join or form small groups, and seemed indifferent to both boys and girls. This lone wolf appearance made many boys uncomfortable, wanting to teach them a lesson. Unfortunately, these bullying attempts were all resolved without exception, and they were even beaten up. Being beaten up didn't matter, but it was embarrassing that so many people couldn't beat them. Afterwards, they would be bullied by the other party's support group, and be ostracized by the girls in the class and grade, and even be counter-bullied by the upper grades. As a result, they hated these popular figures even more, and even hated the people of their clans. For example, on this day, it was snowing heavily. Finally, after the snow stopped, Hinata, who no longer needed Izayoi to transform into Ino Yamanaka to invite her and already had the privilege to go out freely, immediately trotted out of the clan grounds, ready to wait for Izayoi at the old place. Hinata was wearing a white snowman suit, with a red scarf around her neck, looking chubby and very cute. In the past half-year, Hinata's hair had been deliberately grown longer at Izayoi's suggestion, and now it reached her shoulders. She tied it into pigtails with hair ties, planning to change her hairstyle after it reached her waist. Her cute little face was full of baby fat, slightly flushed in the snowy weather, making people want to pinch it. To avoid being discovered, Hinata did not knock on Izayoi's door, but came to the open space outside the ninja academy, waiting for Izayoi's arrival, which had become their tacit understanding. Is that guy a member of Neji's clan? White eyes, there's definitely no mistake. Let's go, let's teach her a lesson. Just as Hinata was waiting for Izayoi, she suddenly heard the voices of several boys in her ears. When she turned her head to look, 3 boys who looked a year or two older than her had jogged over and surrounded her. All of them wore malicious smiles on their faces. Is there something you need? Hinata asked. Her voice was very gentle, but if you looked closely, you would notice that she didn't lower her head, but just looked at the 3 boys with a puzzled expression. Those are really annoying eyes, just like that Neji guy. Looking at Hinata's eyes, one of the boys seemed to recall some bad memories and shouted loudly, "What are you looking at, you Byakugan freak? Do you know you've offended me? Kneel down and apologize to me." Hinata tilted her head, somewhat uncomprehendingly. However, upon hearing her cousin's name, she still asked in confusion, "Are you Neji Nissan's friends? Who's friends with that Neji guy?" Another boy immediately retorted loudly, "We're his enemies. Kneel down quickly, shout, 'I'm sorry,' loudly, and apologize to us on behalf of that Neji guy, or we'll beat you up." The last boy reached out his hand, wanting to hold Hinata's shoulder, force the member of Neji Hyuga's clan to kneel down, and then humiliate her severely. Looking at the boy's outstretched hand, Hinata's eyes suddenly changed, and then her small hand wearing a white glove extended her index and middle fingers, stabbing at the boy's chest at an even faster speed. Even through the glove, Hinata's fingers were like silver needles, penetrating the thick winter clothes, causing the boy to let out a scream and fall to the ground. Hinata then struck the other 2 boys in quick succession. They also let out screams and sat on the ground. It hurts, wah. They kept rubbing their chests, but the pain from the inside out didn't alleviate in the slightest. Looking at Hinata in front of them, they seemed to see the reflection of Neji Hyuga, just as strong, just as condescending. The newest novels are first released at Dingdian Novels. Immediately, they were so frightened that they cried on the spot and ran away, scrambling on their hands and knees. Hinata, who had instinctively counterattacked, tilted her head again. She hadn't even channeled chakra into her body, so why were they crying? With such strength, were they really Neji Nissan's enemies? Clap clap clap. Just then, the sound of applause entered her ears. Looking in the direction the sound came from, Hinata's face immediately revealed a happy expression. "Izayoi-kun, you're here. Hinata, you looked really cool just now." Izayoi, also wearing a white snowman suit, walked over and gave Hinata a thumbs up, saying, "When dealing with people with ill intentions, you should take decisive action, otherwise they will only become more and more aggressive, and even develop the bad habit of bullying others." Yes. Hinata nodded repeatedly, very obedient. Looking at her like this, Izayoi's heart was filled with a sense of accomplishment. In the original story, Hinata was bullied by her peers more than once. The dignified young lady of a wealthy family was bullied by a few commoner boys, which was a very outrageous thing. What's even more outrageous is that Hinata had already started learning Gentle Fist at that time. To be bullied to the point of crying even with that, it was undoubtedly a personality problem. But now, Hinata has turned around and beat the bullies to tears, which shows that Izayoi's transformation has been very successful. In the constant beatings, her personality is no longer introverted and weak, but has become firm and unyielding, and she will not give up easily. Kindness is still there, but she will not sacrifice herself to take care of others. Her actions are not only decisive, but counterattack has become an instinct. Unlike the delinquent girl in Infinite Tsukuyomi, the current Hinata is gentle on the outside but firm on the inside. In just half a year, Hinata has been transformed into this way, and Izayoi is of course full of a sense of accomplishment. But fortunately, the transformation was carried out so early. If Hiyashi Hyuga and Neji Hyuga were to break up Hinata's spirit, it would not be an easy task to change this girl. Hiyashi Hyuga must be very grateful to Izayoi. Hinata's privilege of going out freely is the best reward. Let's go to practice. Okay. 2 children wearing snowman suits headed to the abandoned training ground. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 11. The True Byakugan Princess. Pa pa pa. On a snowy field in the forest, the sound of rapid and continuous strikes echoed. Two small figures wearing snowman suits could be seen, their feet not sinking into the thick snow, but steadily stepping on it as they continuously attacked each other. The black-haired Byakugan girl, her hands wearing white gloves, had blue flames coiling around her fingers, piercing towards the opposite boy with the sound of tearing through the air. The black-haired blue-eyed boy seemed to predict the girl's attacks in advance, always striking the girl's wrist with the back of his hand just before her fingers were about to poke his snowman suit and chakra was about to enter his body through the clothes, deflecting the attack. Then, he would take the opportunity to strike with his palm, a straight punch, or a kick, sending the girl flying into the snow. Each time the girl was hit, she would grunt, her small face showing an uncomfortable and painful expression. However, after falling into the snow, she would quickly get up and continue to attack the boy. Even though she was covered in pain from the blows, even though her internal injuries were so severe that blood flowed from the corner of her mouth, she did not stop. These two children were Izayoi and Hinata. Alright, let's stop here. After fighting for an unknown amount of time, Izayoi finally spoke to end the duel. Hearing this, Hinata sat down in the snow, gasping for breath, her face covered in sweat, and blood staining her tattered snowman suit, revealing the normal clothes underneath. Across from her, Izayoi's white snowman suit was also tattered, with normal clothes underneath as well. This snowman suit was naturally not for decoration, but to allow Hinata to practice, hitting a cow through a mountain, improving her technique of injecting chakra into the human body, as well as the power of her chakra. When she could inject chakra into Izayoi's body through the snowman suit and cause great damage, it meant that her finger strength was amazing and her control of chakra was also very strong. Therefore, every few times he knocked Hinata away, Izayoi would deliberately sell a flaw, allowing Hinata to hit him. Otherwise, being beaten unilaterally, although it would create an invincible image, it might also destroy Hinata's confidence. If he wanted Hinata to become confident, he had to let her taste success. Taking off the tattered snowman suit, Izayoi walked up to Hinata and squatted down, using the most basic medical jutsu to heal Hinata. He didn't know if basic medical jutsu could cure hidden ailments, and Izayoi couldn't check whether Hinata's body had any hidden ailments right now. But he believed that his behavior of violently beating Hinata had long been known by Hiyashi Hyuga. The fact that the other party still tacitly allowed Hinata to train with him, Izayoi believed that he would definitely use other excuses to have Hinata undergo a physical examination. The Hyuga clan definitely had outstanding medical ninja, and whether Hinata had hidden ailments would definitely be known and cured. Even if Hiyashi Hyuga didn't know, it wouldn't matter if he didn't have someone check Hinata's body. A young body, no matter how many hidden ailments it had, was not to be feared. As long as Izayoi awakened the Tenseigan, he would automatically acquire Yin-Yang release like the Rinnegan. At that time, Izayoi could also use Yin-Yang release to help Hinata condition her body. This was the reason why Izayoi had no scruples. After healing Hinata, Izayoi smiled and said, "Let's go ice fishing later, we'll have grilled fish today." Hinata's beautiful eyes lit up instantly, and she nodded, "Okay." Izayoi's understanding of the Naruto world all came from the TV anime. He hadn't read the manga or played the games, and only knew a few bits of information through short videos. He didn't know if there was any information in the manga about Hinata being a big eater. However, in the TV anime, there was a scene where Hinata devoured everyone in a ramen eating contest. It was this scene that made Hinata's big eater attribute appear in various forums, and countless netizens believed it was a waste of talent. After all, in the world of anime, big eater is a very powerful talent. But this talent, like those talents for life professions, did not appear in the perks. Izayoi didn't know if Hinata had such a talent. So one day, Izayoi deliberately took Hinata to catch fish to grill, secretly observing Hinata's appetite. Then he discovered that Hinata could indeed eat a lot, her appetite being 2 or 3 times his. This discovery made Izayoi very happy. A large appetite meant strong digestion, more nutrients absorbed, and stronger physical and mental energy in the cells. This meant that Hinata's chakra reserves in the future would far exceed her peers. The stronger Hinata was, the greater the chance of her bursting out a red perk. Knowing that she had the big eater attribute, Izayoi certainly wouldn't let her waste this talent. So after each training session, Izayoi would take Hinata to catch fish or hunt, letting her eat her fill. Today was no exception. The newest novels are first released at Dingdian Novel Network. At first, Hinata would be restrained in front of Izayoi, wanting to maintain a ladylike demeanor. But gradually, she realized that Izayoi always prepared so much food, obviously having discovered her secret, and seemed afraid that she wouldn't have enough to eat, so she no longer restrained her appetite. At the same time, Hinata was even more looking forward to training with Izayoi. Because even her family didn't know her secret of having a large appetite. Only Hinata didn't realize that the family was gradually no longer having separate meals, and there was a lot more food every day. She still thought it was because of having a younger sister. Izayoi didn't know these things. Otherwise, he would definitely smile with relief. Hinata's fate in this life had undoubtedly changed. With his help, and Hiyashi Hyuga's silent concern, her strength and personality would definitely not be the same as in the original story. Once the foundation was laid, and combined with Izayoi's chakra, she might even awaken the Tenseigan in the future. At that time, Hinata will be the true Byakugan princess. Time passes slowly when studying. Time passes quickly during holidays, which is the consensus of all students. The winter vacation ended, and time entered the chapter of Konoha year 55. The first grade began their third semester, and the sixth grade also ushered in their graduation season. After 2 semesters of training, the freshmen have completed their transformation. Those who stayed in school already possess chakra and have adapted to the intensity of cultural and practical combat classes. So in the third semester, the ninja school officially taught them the 3-body technique, as well as the Konoha body flicker technique and invisibility technique. The practical combat class also added survival exercise. Survival exercise mainly trains the students' intelligence capabilities, as well as their use of the 3-body technique, body flicker technique, and invisibility technique, etc. Except for the 3-body technique, the other basics are very simple. When Naruto Uzumaki first appeared in the original work, he couldn't even use the clone technique well, but he could use the body flicker technique and invisibility technique to tease some chunin wearing green vests. But these are all without difficulty for Izayoi. Seeing that in the practical combat class, there were still only taijutsu duels, no kunai white blade battles, and no unrestricted duels where anything could be used. Except for the afternoons with taijutsu duels, Izayoi still doesn't use his main body to come to school. Chapter 12. Steady Izayoi finally matched with the Child of Destiny. As March arrived, the third semester was drawing to a close. From this month onward, the number of times Izayoi's main body attended class began to increase. Not only in the afternoon, but even the morning cultural classes were attended by the main body. Firstly, March was not only the graduation month for the 6th grade but also the major exam month for other grades. Before the end of this semester, there would be an important year-end exam. The results of the year-end exam, along with the various quizzes and spot checks from these 3 semesters, would be included in the comprehensive score. Then, the Ninja Academy would select the top student from the entire grade based on the comprehensive score, the so-called top student. To stand out among several classes, dozens, or even hundreds of students, including many from ninja clans, and become the top student of a grade, was undoubtedly the most dazzling genius. If they were a ninja clan member, they would be the most outstanding member of the family's new generation. If they came from an ordinary family, they would be a commoner genius who surpassed the ninja clan children. These top students were all prominent figures in the Ninja Academy. Izayoi naturally wouldn't let the title of top student go to anyone else. Their class was the most special of the new generation. The children of the major ninja clans were all heirs to their clan leaders. Surpassing them to become the top student would be far more valuable than in other grades. Winning the title of top student to prove his talent would make it even easier for Izayoi to pursue Hinata without any obstacles. With Izayoi's current strength, winning the title of top student was not difficult for him at all. Even if the main body didn't come, a shadow clone could easily defeat others. However, Izayoi still came with his main body. Because he knew that the current Konoha had already begun to stir with undercurrents. Konoha year 55, the Konoha 11 were 7 years old. At the same time, a major event this year shocked the entire ninja world. That was, after the decline of the Senju, the Uchiha clan, which had become the #1 wealthy clan in Konoha, and even the #1 ninja clan in the ninja world, would be annihilated by a 13-year-old boy. And this boy was the son of the current clan leader, Sasuke Uchiha's older brother, Itachi Uchiha. With this amazing record, Itachi Uchiha also became the youngest S-ranked missing nin in the ninja world. However, only a few people knew that the Uchiha clan was not destroyed by Itachi Uchiha alone. There were not only shadows of Konoha's higher-ups in this, but also the help of outsiders. Izayoi was one of the few who knew this secret. During this period, the number one simp in the ninja world would enter Konoha at any time using Kamui to wander around. To avoid being discovered by this simp, or attracting his attention, Izayoi prepared to slow down his cultivation speed, and would not take Hinata to the abandoned training grounds to cultivate before the Uchiha clan was destroyed. It's better to be safe than sorry. Hinata is the young mistress of the main family, and her Byakugan without the caged bird seal is priceless on the black market. After all, Ao, with only one Byakugan, became an elite jonin in the Hidden Mist village and even made it onto Konoha's golden wanted list. Who knows if Obito Uchiha, or the black and white Zetsu hiding in the shadows, might suddenly target Hinata's Byakugan. Izayoi, who has already caused a butterfly effect, won't gamble on the villain's kindness. March 20th. The students from 1st to 5th grade, ahead of the 6th grade's graduation exams, welcome their academic year exams. On this day, Izayoi arrived at the Ninja Academy early. However, Hinata arrived at the classroom even earlier than him. After confirming the code and realizing that Izayoi was the real deal, Hinata smiled gently and said softly, "Izayoi-kun, good luck." "Yeah, let's do our best together." Izayoi grinned and encouraged in a low voice, "Let's aim for 1st and 2nd place." "Okay." Hinata imagined the scene of Izayoi and herself ranked 1st and 2nd on the results announcement board, and nodded with anticipation in her eyes. In the past, Hinata had no pursuit of rankings. But now, Hinata doesn't want to lose to anyone other than Izayoi. She also has the strength to compete for 2nd place. Soon it was time for the exam to begin. The morning exam was cultural studies. Although the three-body technique has been taught this semester, the school does not have an exam for the three-body technique. After all, not all 6th grade students can use the three-body technique. Some graduation exams only test one of the three-body technique. A genin who has just graduated and can use AC rank 5 elements ninjutsu has enough chakra to amaze their jonin instructor. Thus, it can be seen that more than 90% of 1st grade students do not have the chakra to use the three-body technique. Therefore, Itachi Uchiha's cultural knowledge was only at the 1st grade level, but just by using shadow clones to attend classes, his teacher thought he had nothing to teach him and specially requested the 3rd Hokage to allow him to graduate early. The newest novels are first released at 69 shu. In this world, culture is secondary, and strength is the main thing. Naruto Uzumaki is the best example. The morning exam was not difficult for either Izayoi or Hinata. The afternoon exams were shuriken throwing and taijutsu duels, as well as the newly added survival exercise. The former two were also not difficult. As long as the taijutsu sparring didn't match her against Izayoi, even if she encountered Sasuke Uchiha, Hinata would get full marks. In terms of taijutsu, Hinata was already invincible in the 1st grade. Her attacks were decisive, and her pressure point strike was a nightmare for the children. However, if she were matched against Izayoi, then Hinata would have no hope for 2nd place. As for why she had no hope for top student, it was simple, because Hinata had also been matched against Izayoi in these 3 semesters, and the result was naturally defeat. Her overall score was already inferior to Izayoi's. Even if she was lucky enough to get full marks in all subjects in the year-end exam, she would not get the title of top student. Similarly, even if Izayoi was careless in the written exam and answered a question incorrectly, accidentally losing to Sakura Haruno, the latter could not become the top student, because her overall score was not good enough. Currently, in the 1st grade, the only people who had not lost in actual combat were Izayoi, Sasuke Uchiha, and Shino Aburame. Among them, Sasuke Uchiha and Shino Aburame's written exam and overall scores were not as good as Izayoi's, and also not as good as Hinata's. Even if they got full marks in the year-end exam, they would not get the top student title. As long as Hinata got full marks in the practical exam, she would be guaranteed 2nd place. Unless someone in other classes had a better overall score than Hinata. But obviously, this was impossible. Izayoi easily obtained a perfect score in shuriken throwing. When it came to taijutsu sparring, Izayoi was matched with an unexpected opponent. Next match, Izayoi vs Naruto Uzumaki. The students of Class 1 in the 1st grade formed a circle in the open space. Uruka Yumino stood in the middle of the circle, holding a clipboard, and shouted loudly. Hearing the name of his opponent, Naruto Uzumaki couldn't help but put his hands on his head, looking desperate. Why is my opponent Izayoi? I'm done for. The written test and shuriken throwing were like nightmares for Naruto Uzumaki. Only in taijutsu sparring did he have a chance of winning. But now, that chance was gone. After all, Izayoi was someone who even Hinata, the taijutsu demon king, was no match for. Unlike the desperate Naruto Uzumaki, Izayoi's eyes lit up. Finally matched with this child of destiny. Chapter 13. Crushing Naruto, Uzumaki Bloodline. Not bad, this is Izayoi's first time matching with Naruto Uzumaki. It seems there's a karmic force at play between Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha. In 10 taijutsu sparrings, they match each other about half the time. Izayoi can't match with Naruto Uzumaki at all. Fortunately, the Otsutsuki Bloodline, red like the sage body, possesses an extremely large amount of chakra, otherwise Izayoi wouldn't know what method to use to burst out Naruto Uzumaki's sage body. Now that he's finally matched with Naruto Uzumaki, Izayoi is very excited. This means his luck is very good today. Since his luck is so good, will he be able to burst out a valuable entry? Suppressing the excitement in his heart, Izayoi got up and walked to Iruka Yumino's right-hand side. Looking at Naruto Uzumaki, who was walking to the opposite side, gritting his teeth, and not wanting to give up, Izayoi raised his right hand, held up his index and middle fingers, and smiled, "Naruto, please give me your guidance." Hearing this, Naruto Uzumaki was slightly stunned. His originally tense mood suddenly relaxed. Looking at Izayoi opposite him, a warm current welled up in his heart. Different. This guy's eyes are different from others. There's no disgust from those adults, nor the rejection from his peers, only equal goodwill. Besides Iruka Yumino, who recognized him last semester, Izayoi is the second special person. Thinking of this, Naruto Uzumaki suddenly had the urge to cry. But he suppressed that emotion, nodded vigorously, and grinned, "Yeah, please give me your guidance." After speaking, Naruto Uzumaki also held up his index and middle fingers. In the blue eyes, the same color as Izayoi's, his gaze had become firm. Iruka Yumino, who took this scene into his eyes, couldn't help but reveal a gratified smile. Immediately, he took a few steps back and shouted loudly, "The 7th round of duels, begin." As soon as he finished speaking, Izayoi and Naruto Uzumaki rushed towards each other. Naruto Uzumaki's attack routine is very simple, monotonous, and he doesn't know how to adapt at all. After approaching, he just throws a punch at Izayoi. Although Izayoi doesn't have the Sharingan, in front of his perceptive ability, the moment Naruto Uzumaki raised his shoulder, he knew what the other party was going to do next. Before Naruto Uzumaki's fist was thrown out, Izayoi had already completed his charge. A left-hand lift, the back of his hand struck Naruto Uzumaki's wrist, knocking his straight punch away, and then his right fist struck out. With a bang, the fist hit Naruto Uzumaki's left face squarely. The powerful force knocked Naruto Uzumaki to the ground with a single blow, his face swollen and bruised. "That hurts." Naruto Uzumaki gasped, but wasn't instantly defeated by Izayoi's punch. He quickly got up and continued to attack Izayoi. However, every punch and kick was predicted by Izayoi in advance, either blocked, dodged, or countered with force redirection. Even Hinata's swift as the wind, chakra-infused, and air-splitting pressure point strike was easily dealt with by Izayoi. Naruto Uzumaki's chaotic attacks were not only powerless but also full of openings. With each punch and kick landing on Naruto Uzumaki, the clothes of this child of destiny quickly became dirty, and his face was covered with wounds, making him look very disheveled. In contrast, Izayoi was unscathed, not even a speck of dust on him. Even a 3-year-old could see the difference between the two. But despite being unilaterally beaten, Naruto Uzumaki didn't choose to surrender. At first, he would gasp when hit, but now he didn't make a sound even when struck, his expression so focused, and his attacks gradually became less chaotic. He was growing, even though he would revert to his original state next time. But right now, he was indeed getting stronger in battle. So, Izayoi, having spotted another opening, decided to end the fight. He bent his knees, dodging Naruto Uzumaki's attack, and used the momentum to perform a sweeping leg, knocking Naruto Uzumaki to the ground. Then, without giving Naruto Uzumaki a chance to get up, he threw a punch, stopping it just in front of Naruto Uzumaki's face. Seeing this, Iruka Yumino immediately announced loudly, "Naruto Uzumaki is unable to fight, the winner is Izayoi." "Pa!" Almost at the moment Iruka Yumino's voice fell, one of the purple bubbles around Naruto Uzumaki, visible only to Izayoi, suddenly burst. Immediately, a beam of purple light flew towards Izayoi, seeping into his body. Then, a small bubble reappeared around Naruto Uzumaki. This newly formed bubble was very small, and its color was not white to red, but a transparent little bubble. There were no entries inside, it was empty. Izayoi had seen such a scene more than once. He knew that this bubble was in a cooling state. Once the cooling was over, this transparent bubble would turn back into a purple bubble, and the entries inside would reappear. At the same time, Izayoi also had a chance to burst this entry again. Yes, entries could be burst repeatedly. It's just that Izayoi hasn't triggered the same entry on the same person yet. Seeing clearly what that purple bubble's entry was, Izayoi is now very excited. However, he didn't immediately summon the personal panel, but instead extended his palm towards Naruto Uzumaki, smiling, "Naruto, you're very strong, let's have another fight next time." Naruto Uzumaki, who had gone all out and still been beaten badly, was originally filled with bitterness. But seeing Izayoi looking at him with a sincere face, without the slightest hint of looking down on him. Only in front of Sasuke Uchiha would he feel unwilling, and Naruto Uzumaki instantly felt relieved. He reached out and grabbed Izayoi's hand, using the force to get up, and also grinned, "Izayoi, you really are strong, but I won't lose next time. Your progress is very obvious, I'm looking forward to fighting you next time." Izayoi smiled and extended his index and middle fingers at Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto Uzumaki also extended his index and middle fingers, hooking them together with Izayoi's fingers. This is the seal of reconciliation, corresponding to the seal of confrontation before the fight, symbolizing that even if there is a big gap between ninjas, they can reconcile. In the original story, Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha ended the 1,000-year-long battle of fate between Asura and Indra through the seal of reconciliation. If the reincarnations of Asura and Indra cannot reconcile, then their chakra will continue to reincarnate. The 1,000-year-long battle of fate made Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha unable to stand each other, even without any conflicts or Sakura Haruno's influence. Naruto Uzumaki can naturally shake hands and make peace with Izayoi, but he can't form the seal of reconciliation with Sasuke Uchiha. But all of this has nothing to do with Izayoi. After forming the seal of reconciliation with Naruto Uzumaki, Izayoi returned to the team, perfunctorily dealing with the surrounding classmates, while summoning the light screen that only he could see, and at the same time replying to the prompt that echoed in his mind as the light beam penetrated his body. Ding! You have obtained the talent entry Uzumaki Bloodline, Purple, Fuse or Decompose. Fuse. The next second, a new talent entry appeared in the entry column, Uzumaki Bloodline, Purple. Chapter 14, Top Student. Although not exploding out the sage body made Izayoi feel somewhat regretful. However, exploding out the Uzumaki bloodline was already extremely lucky. This bloodline, just like the bloodlines of the Senju clan and the Uchiha clan, as well as the Kagaya clan, all belong to branches of the Otsutsuki clan. As descendants of the sage body, the Uzumaki clan and the Senju clan both possess powerful life forces, and their chakra reserves are astonishing. Moreover, in addition to being skilled in using sealing techniques, the Uzumaki clan also possesses 3 powerful unique abilities. These 3 abilities are Kagura Mind's Eye, Adamantine Sealing Chains, and Physical Stamina Healing. Kagura Mind's Eye, one of the strongest sensory techniques in the shinobi world. Adamantine Sealing Chains, an integrated offense and defense, can also be used to create barriers and perform sealing techniques, making it difficult even for tailed beasts to break free when bound. Physical Stamina Healing, can consume chakra to heal one's own or others' injuries, with considerable effectiveness. These 3 abilities are all top-tier support skills. However, just as not everyone in the Uchiha clan can awaken the Sharingan, these 3 unique abilities are not something that every member of the Uzumaki clan can awaken. In the original work, Naruto Uzumaki did not awaken any of these abilities before gaining Kurama's recognition. After gaining Kurama's recognition, he did possess the same ability to sense good and evil as Mito Uzumaki. As for why he didn't awaken the other abilities, either the original sage body was too strong, or the original author didn't want to give him any more advantages. But what cannot be denied is that Naruto Uzumaki not only has the Uzumaki bloodline, but also, as the reincarnation of Asura chakra, the purity of this bloodline is very high. And now, Izayoi has exploded out the Uzumaki bloodline from Naruto Uzumaki. If he's lucky, he might be able to awaken one of the 3 unique abilities. If he, like Karen, awakens all 3 unique abilities at the same time, then whether in terms of sensing, sealing, or healing, he will reach the top level in the shinobi world. Even if he doesn't awaken any unique abilities, he will still possess the powerful life force inherited from the sage body, so he won't lose out either way. Izayoi happily put away the light screen and watched the duels on the field. As one round after another of duels determined the winners, the taijutsu sparring quickly came to an end. Next was the final exam, the newly added survival exercise. However, before starting the survival exercise, Haruka Yumino first took the students to the medical room to have the doctors treat them. Afterward, he took the students to the props room, allowing Izayoi and the others to enter and choose props. These props are all necessities for using the invisibility technique. Unlike the Genin's bell-grabbing survival exercise, the Ninja Academy's survival exercise is mostly hide-and-seek, mainly testing the students' proficiency in the invisibility technique and body flicker technique, as well as the three-body technique. Those who perform well will receive higher perfect scores. If their performance is poor, they will be given a chance like in the Chunin exams, and if they are still difficult to watch afterward, they will be caught. This kind of exam is naturally not difficult for Izayoi, who has already mastered the three-body technique. He effortlessly lasted until the end of the time, once again earning a perfect score in another subject. Although the results will be announced in the new semester in April, the title of top student is already Izayoi's. Hinata, see you tomorrow at the usual place. Okay. After school, Izayoi and Hinata parted ways at an intersection, making the same promise as usual. Even though Izayoi would no longer take Hinata to the abandoned training grounds before the Uchiha clan was destroyed, he still hadn't stopped training with Hinata. It's just that the training ground has changed from the abandoned training grounds to the school's playground, or the yard of Izayoi's house. The Nine-Tails rampage did not destroy Izayoi's home. The inheritance left to Izayoi by his ninja parents included a two-story detached house with a small yard. Compared to Naruto Uzumaki, whose entire inheritance was confiscated, and even the scarf left by Kushina Uzumaki was thrown into the storage room to gather dust, Izayoi's conditions were simply excellent. Fortunately, his parents were ordinary ninjas, and the village wasn't so ruthless. 1 year has 3 semesters. Except for the longer summer vacation, the other holidays in the Ninja Academy are very short. In the blink of an eye, it was April 1st. The Ninja Academy starts a new school year. The 6th graders have already graduated, and the genin who have been recognized by their jonin instructors have already begun to perform tasks. Those genin who have not been recognized have either returned to school to retake the course, or have been specially recruited by other departments, or have retaken the course several times and feel that they do not have the qualifications to become a ninja, and have dropped out of school to become ordinary people. The 1st to 5th graders ushered in promotion and began to move classrooms. The vacant 1st grade also ushered in new students who passed the entrance examination. On this day, the front of the bulletin board was full of students. First-year freshmen are checking their classrooms. Students in other grades are checking the results of the major exams in their respective grades. Hey, Izayoi-kun, have you seen the results on the bulletin board? Awesome, Izayoi, you've become the top student of our grade. As expected of Izayoi, even Sasuke isn't your opponent. Izayoi is the top student, and Hinata is the 2nd place. You two classmates have taken the top 2 spots, you're so strong. Quote. Izayoi had just arrived at the new classroom when he was surrounded by his classmates, both male and female. Izayoi didn't feel impatient, but stood there, smiling and chatting with them for a long time. From their words, it can also be known that Izayoi is the top student, and the 2nd place is not Sasuke Uchiha, but Hinata. Izayoi wasn't surprised by this. Hinata's academic scores were already among the top. In the original Chunin exams, first test, among the 4 girls of the Konoha 12, only she and Sakura Haruno didn't need to cheat. With his help, learning to climb trees and walk on water in the 1st year, no longer being introverted, and being decisive in battle without worrying about others, if Hinata could still lose to Sasuke Uchiha, then Izayoi might as well kill himself by running into a wall. Sasuke Uchiha should be glad he didn't encounter Hinata in the taijutsu sparring, otherwise he wouldn't even be able to hold on to 3rd place. After all, Shino Aburame was no pushover. Izayoi returned to his seat after chatting with his classmates until class was about to start. Good morning, Izayoi-kun. Morning, Hinata. Hinata was still earlier than Izayoi. After exchanging greetings, the two began to chat. Izayoi-kun, congratulations on becoming the top student. Hinata had obviously gone to see the notice board as well. Izayoi also smiled and said, congratulations on taking 2nd place. Now your father will definitely not stop you from going out. Yes, yes. Hinata nodded repeatedly, a happy smile on her face. Clearly, she also realized that her and Izayoi's plan had long been seen through by her father. But Hinata wasn't grounded, and was able to go out freely, indicating that her interactions with Izayoi had been tacitly approved by her father. Thinking back to the times she was caught practicing walking on water at home, but was never questioned, Hinata felt it must be related to her progress. Now that she had also achieved second place in the grade, and Izayoi, who was teaching her, was the top student. If her father knew, he would definitely approve of Izayoi even more. Thinking of this, Hinata couldn't help but feel delighted. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 15, Super Hurricane Combination Sphere, Uchiha Clan Massacre. The second year's curriculum wasn't much different from the first. The cultural courses were still the same few subjects, just with increased difficulty. In the afternoon, there was no longer physical training. The students who hadn't been advised to drop out by now had obviously extracted their chakra. As long as they steadily completed the 6 years, they would either become genin acknowledged by Jonin and heavily nurtured by the village, or become new blood in other departments. The chance of wasting 6 years and reverting to being an ordinary person was extremely small. Remember the first website domain. The next 5 years would be spent teaching them how to gather intelligence and assassination skills. These lessons were not difficult for Izayoi, and could even be described as boring. After only a few days, he couldn't help but dismiss his original idea and sent a shadow clone to attend class again. He himself stayed at home to cultivate. Although he couldn't practice 5 elements release at home, he could try to develop ninjutsu. Although developing ninjutsu required a strong foundation in nature transformation or shape transformation, Izayoi, as a transmigrator, knew that there was a ninjutsu that didn't require such a foundation, as long as there was enough chakra. That ninjutsu was the Rasengan, which the 4th Hokage got inspiration from the tailed beast ball and eventually spent several years developing. It was an A-rank, attribute-less, and signless ninjutsu. As Naruto Uzumaki's signature ninjutsu that he used from childhood to adulthood, developing various series of it, the Rasengan was also the only ninjutsu in the original work that had its full-stage cultivation method revealed. That cultivation plot was too deeply imprinted in his mind. Anyone who liked to watch Naruto could not forget this cultivation method, and Izayoi was the same. However, Izayoi's cultivation of the Rasengan was not to use it as a trump card, but as mentioned above, to try to develop ninjutsu. The Rasengan was a signless ninjutsu developed by the 4th Hokage, and it had a special meaning in Konoha. Apart from the 4th Hokage, the only people who mastered this ninjutsu were the 4th Hokage's teacher and disciple. If Izayoi suddenly used this ninjutsu in the future, it would definitely catch the attention of the Konoha higher-ups. Without a reasonable explanation, it might arouse various suspicions. This was not what Izayoi wanted. Therefore, he wanted to use the Rasengan as a foundation to develop another signless ninjutsu, the Super Hurricane Combination Sphere. The Super Hurricane Combination Sphere, also known as Multiple Big Ball Hurricane Rasengan, was a ninjutsu used by Asura Otsutsuki to deal with Indra Otsutsuki in the TV animation. That ninjutsu was similar to Naruto Uzumaki's Planet Rasengan. The principle of this ninjutsu was to first create an energy ball that was second only to the Big Ball Rasengan, and then add 5 energy balls of the same size as the Rasengan that could rotate inside. This ninjutsu was like the Rasenshuriken, which could be thrown or launched. Once it exploded, it would be a 6-hit combo. If the energy ball was blown up, the 5 energy balls inside would scatter and attack the enemy. Moreover, like Naruto Uzumaki adding various attributes to the Rasengan, this ninjutsu could also be infused with 5 elements attributes, or even combine the 5 attributes, just like the 3rd Hokage's 5-release Great Barrage technique. At that time, the power would be earth-shattering. If it weren't for the Otsutsuki Bloodline, Red, and the all-attribute Constitution, Purple, perks, Izayoi would never have dared to entertain such thoughts. Mastering the Rasengan alone would have been satisfying enough. However, the seal-less talent granted by the Otsutsuki Bloodline, Red, along with the all-attribute Constitution, Purple, and the chakra control that had been upgraded to Purple rank, gave Izayoi the means to turn the original ninjutsu from the TV anime into reality. Thanks to his powerful chakra control, Izayoi mastered the Rasengan in just 1 week. Next, he only needed to continue injecting chakra to increase the Rasengan's size to that of a basketball without letting the energy ball explode, and then he could try to condense a small energy ball inside. However, Izayoi couldn't train at home during this stage. Once the energy ball exploded, the consequences would be unimaginable. So, he began to patiently wait for the Uchiha clan's demise to arrive. When the time came to May 15th, Izayoi finally awaited the arrival of this day. There were usually only 2 or 3 classes in the afternoon, and after a few weeks, there would be a survival exercise to examine the students' growth during this period. Even in this special situation, school would let out around 5 p.m. But on this day, the students of Class 1 in the second year had a rare 4 classes in the afternoon. The final survival exercise didn't end until dusk. The Uchiha clan estate was located near the Naka River, not much different from the suburbs. Without using the body flicker technique to travel, by the time Sasuke Uchiha returned to the clan estate, night had already fallen. At this time, a full moon had already appeared in the sky. The newest novels are first released at. Bathed in the afterglow of the sunset, it was somewhat blood red. Izayoi's shadow clone glanced at the back of Sasuke Uchiha, who ran out of the school gate and jogged home. He knew that after today, this Sasuke, who wasn't particularly aloof and didn't care about grades, would completely disappear. At that time, a Sasuke exuding a cold aura, who placed great importance on grades and family honor, and whose emotions could be easily swayed by a little verbal provocation, making him extremely easy to break down, would appear before Izayoi. Although the latter was very miserable, Izayoi was still very much looking forward to that moment. After all, he had been waiting for a full year. The next day, news shook Konoha and quickly spread outward, soon reaching the entire shinobi world through spies, transmissions. After the decline of the Senju, the Uchiha clan, which had become Konoha's #1 clan and even the shinobi world's #1 ninja clan, whose bloodline limit had the titles of one-on-one invincibility and copy eye, illusion eye, had been annihilated. The culprit who destroyed this clan was not the Hyuga clan, which was on par with them, nor the Konoha higher-ups or other ninja villages, but the eldest son of the Uchiha clan's current head, Itachi Uchiha, who was only 13 years old this year. The name Itachi Uchiha also quickly spread throughout the entire shinobi world in the following days, becoming Konoha's and even the shinobi world's youngest S-rank missing nin. Izayoi had just gone out today when he saw the villagers discussing this matter. This was a major event. The scale of the sensation was no less than the Nine Tails rampage of Konoha 48. In just a few short years, Konoha had successively lost the 4th Hokage and his wife, along with a host of strong individuals, and the #1 ninja clan. The current Konoha was undoubtedly entering its weakest period since the village's founding. Once, there were so many cage-level powerhouses that one hand wasn't enough to count them. The strongest ninja village that could win even against 4 opponents, now only had the aging 3rd Hokage as its sole cage-level powerhouse. After the Nine Tails rampage, Konoha attracted the covetous eyes and scheming of Cloud Village. Now, having also lost its #1 ninja clan, it should, by all rights, be targeted by even more external enemies. But strangely, in the following years, Konoha was calm and peaceful. Clearly, the major ninja villages had all noticed something was amiss. Chapter 16, Sasuke's Challenge, Unrestricted Duel. The higher-ups of the major shinobi villages are not fools. The Uchiha clan is a prestigious shinobi clan with a 1,000-year heritage, and the Sharingan is the strongest bloodline limit in the shinobi world after the loss of Wood release. Countless people yearn to obtain a 3-tomo Sharingan. After all, Kakashi Hatake is known as the copy ninja, and Konoha technician, for copying thousands of ninjutsu with just one 3-tomo Sharingan. Moreover, copying ninjutsu is only the ability of the 2-tomo. The 3-tomo Sharingan is known as the Genjutsu Eye. Outsiders simply cannot unleash the true power of the Sharingan. Every Uchiha who can unleash the true power of the 3-tomo Sharingan is an elite Jonin who is invincible in one-on-one combat. The Uchiha clan definitely has a double-digit number of such strong individuals. With so many strong individuals, along with other Uchiha who have awakened the 1-tomo Sharingan and 2-tomo Sharingan, as well as a large number of ordinary clan members who have not awakened the Sharingan, it would be impossible to kill them all in one night, even if Itachi Uchiha possessed the legendary Mangekyo Sharingan. Even if it were possible, it would be impossible without making any noise. But the Uchiha clan was annihilated in one night, and Itachi Uchiha, as the culprit, successfully escaped Konoha. The waters here are simply too deep. Without a doubt, the figures of Konoha's higher-ups are definitely involved. Being able to wipe out the #1 prestigious shinobi clan in one night, such strength and means, as well as the ruthlessness and coldness that disregards the consequences, has shocked the major shinobi villages. Regarding this incident, the major shinobi villages only sent a group of spies to infiltrate Konoha to collect information, and after failing, they simply ignored it. During the Third Shinobi World War, the major shinobi villages suffered heavy losses, and they have not yet recovered. Even Cloud Village did not take advantage of the situation this time. They are all maintaining the existing balance, preparing for the next Shinobi World War. Izayoi is unaware of these things, but he can guess a little. Having read the original work, he knows that the next few years will be calm. This is the best opportunity to develop. Sasuke Uchiha, who was affected by the Mangekyo Sharingan's genjutsu, was in a coma for a full week before waking up. When he appeared in the classroom, his entire person had undergone a huge change. In the past, Sasuke Uchiha would only have a headache when faced with the encirclement of girls, but he would not say hurtful words, let alone hit people. This attitude only made the girls become more aggressive. But now, those girls who were delighted to see Sasuke Uchiha appear did not dare to surround him at all. Because at this time, Sasuke Uchiha's eyes and aura were too frightening. People of the same age did not dare to approach him, nor did they dare to look him in the eye. Only Izayoi could see that the current Sasuke Uchiha was fragile yet stubborn. Scarred and battered, Sasuke needed the warmth and healing of love the most. But his personality made him unwilling to accept anyone's pity. Only Naruto Uzumaki, who had reincarnated for 1,000 years and whose fate in this life was similar to his, could break into Sasuke Uchiha's heart and gain his approval. After school in the afternoon, Izayoi finally waited for the scene he had been anticipating. After the taijutsu sparring ended, the students formed small groups as usual, either lingering at the school, leaving the school, or not joining any group and going home alone. The former Sasuke Uchiha was the latter. However, today, Sasuke Uchiha did not go home alone, but approached Izayoi and said the same words Izayoi had said back then. Izayoi, want to have a fight? Hearing this, Izayoi, who had deliberately come to the ninja academy in his real body today and had not gone home with Hinata, just to wait for him, smiled secretly in his heart. But on the surface, he pretended to be stunned, looked at Sasuke Uchiha, who might not have recovered yet and whose eyes were a little gloomy, and couldn't help but tease, you weren't interested in my challenge back then, why are you interested now? Stop talking nonsense, are you scared? Sasuke Uchiha didn't answer, but said provocatively. In the past, he only wanted to train with Itachi Uchiha, so naturally he didn't want to waste time on others. Now that his clan has been destroyed, the meaning of his life is to kill Itachi Uchiha and then restore the Uchiha clan. If he wants to kill Itachi Uchiha, he must obtain powerful power. If he wants to restore the Uchiha clan, the first thing is to make people remember the power and glory of the Uchiha clan, and he cannot lose to others. So Izayoi became Sasuke Uchiha's target. As long as he defeats Izayoi, he can prove that he is stronger than all his peers. Izayoi naturally didn't know what Sasuke Uchiha was thinking. Seeing that the other party was using provocation to cover up his tsundere attitude, Izayoi accepted it when he saw the advantage and nodded with a smile. Okay, let's have a fight then. Very good, then let's go to the schoolyard. Sasuke Uchiha said with a look of fighting spirit. There's no need to go to the schoolyard, let's go somewhere else. Izayoi shook his head and smiled, I'll take you to a place. After saying that, Izayoi walked towards the abandoned training grounds. Sasuke Uchiha followed closely behind. The Uchiha clan has been destroyed for a week, and Obito Uchiha shouldn't come to Konoha to wander around except for Rin Nohara's death anniversary. Izayoi also made a special trip to the cemetery to write down Rin Nohara's death anniversary, so he just shouldn't go to the wild at this time every year in the future. So a few days ago, Izayoi resumed training in the wild. Soon, the two arrived at the training grounds where Izayoi and Hinata usually trained. The ground and trees there were covered with traces of strikes and ninjutsu. Seeing these traces, Sasuke Uchiha couldn't help but narrow his eyes, a considerable wave rising in his heart. If these traces were all left behind by Izayoi, wouldn't that mean this guy, like himself, has also mastered the 5 elements release? If he remembered correctly, he seemed to be an orphan. He had his father to teach him, but Izayoi was self-taught. Sasuke Uchiha suddenly understood, finally realizing why this guy was able to stay ahead of him. It wasn't luck, but that the other party was working harder than him. Thinking of this, Sasuke Uchiha's fighting spirit grew even stronger. Fighting against such an opponent would allow him to become stronger. Defeating such an opponent would prove his strength. How do you want to fight? Looking at Sasuke Uchiha across from him, Izayoi asked, a taijutsu sparring, or a no-holds-barred match? The so-called no-holds-barred match meant anything goes. The three-body technique, invisibility technique, body flicker technique, tools, and even the 5 elements release that the Ninja Academy didn't teach could all be used freely. A no-holds-barred match was also an extremely dangerous match. The Ninja Academy also had no-holds-barred matches, but that was a subject only for 6th graders. Moreover, when conducting a no-holds-barred match, in addition to the referee teacher, there also had to be a medical ninja nearby. After all, such battles were prone to accidents. A moment of carelessness could even put a student's life in danger. If Iruka Yumino were here, upon hearing Izayoi's words, his expression would definitely change drastically, and he would quickly stop and reprimand them. However, Sasuke Uchiha said without hesitation, no holds barred match. Chapter 17. Huh, you have guts. Izayoi wasn't surprised by Sasuke Uchiha's choice. However, on the surface, he still gave Sasuke Uchiha a thumbs up. This choice was also a good thing for Izayoi. Taijutsu sparring couldn't bring out his full strength at all, and even if he won, the drop rate would be smaller than in a no-rules duel. This was something Izayoi had confirmed. When Hinata didn't use pressure point strike to inject chakra into his body, Izayoi defeated her and didn't drop any perks at all. The difference in strength between her and Izayoi was simply too great. Although overwhelming battles might also drop perks, Izayoi hadn't encountered this extremely low probability in the past year. When Hinata used pressure point strike and went all out, Izayoi had successively dropped 2 perks from her in the past year, 1 purple and 1 blue. These 2 perks were the Bloodline Limit Byakugan purple and Chakra Control blue. It wasn't that Izayoi looked down on Sasuke Uchiha, but knowing the plot and being incredibly talented, he had started taking shortcuts at the age of 3. The cheater was ahead of the other cheater by 3 or 4 years. If Sasuke Uchiha hadn't already mastered fire style, Fireball Jutsu, he would have posed no threat to Izayoi at all. And fire style, Fireball Jutsu could increase Sasuke Uchiha's drop rate. A no-rules duel was the best choice. Then let's begin. Izayoi took a few steps back, distancing himself from Sasuke Uchiha, and then raised his index and middle fingers. Seeing this, Sasuke Uchiha also formed the confrontation seal. Immediately, the two rushed towards each other. Upon approaching, Sasuke Uchiha threw a punch. While dodging to the side, Izayoi raised his foot and turned 180 degrees, kicking towards Sasuke Uchiha's face. His flexibility was astonishing. Sasuke Uchiha didn't have time to dodge, so he could only raise his other arm and use his forearm to block. His body was kicked back several steps. By the time he stabilized himself, he was already in an extremely passive position. Izayoi rushed forward, swinging both arms left and right, bombarding Sasuke Uchiha's face and chest. The power wasn't strong, but the attack speed was so fast that Sasuke Uchiha couldn't react. Having just blocked the first punch, the second punch caught a gap and landed on his face. After taking the first punch, Sasuke Uchiha completely lost his rhythm and became a movable sandbag. His raised arms would also be used by Izayoi to grab, pull, and disrupt his body's balance. In contrast, Izayoi's combo started without any rhythm, but gradually became very rhythmic. It was like the Hyuga clan's 8 trigrams palm, which doesn't do much damage unless chakra is channeled into the body, but during the combo, the opponent has no power to resist. After an unknown number of hits, Izayoi finally stopped attacking, spun around 360 degrees, and kicked Sasuke Uchiha with a charged-up foot, sending him flying. The power of this kick was even more uncomfortable than the previous combo, making it difficult for Sasuke Uchiha to breathe. However, looking at Izayoi retracting his foot, Sasuke Uchiha, who had been trapped in the genjutsu space for days, constantly watching the scene of his clan's massacre, suddenly saw a reflection of Itachi Uchiha in Izayoi. The words of the other party, disdaining to kill him, echoed in his mind. "You are too weak now, live ugly in the future, and try your best to survive." Sasuke Uchiha's expression suddenly became distorted. "Itachi Uchiha, I will definitely kill you. Fire style, Fireball Jutsu." He regarded Izayoi as Itachi Uchiha, then formed hand seals and spat out a wisp of flame from his mouth, which quickly grew into a high-temperature fireball, smashing towards Izayoi. Just in time, wind style, wind cutter technique. Izayoi was not surprised but delighted, then pretended to form hand seals, exhaled a breath from his mouth, which suddenly transformed from invisible to visible, turning into a scythe-shaped transparent white wind blade, colliding with the incoming fireball. In the next second, the huge fireball was cut open by a diagonal line, and the power of the drastically reduced wind blade continued to fly forward, landing on Sasuke Uchiha. Shred. As the sound of cloth tearing rang out, blood spurted out from Sasuke Uchiha's body. Sasuke Uchiha, who had fallen to the ground, instantly became motionless. Izayoi was not panicked at all, and walked over unhurriedly. Now anyone could die, except for Sasuke Uchiha and Naruto Uzumaki. The news of the demonic statue of the outer path being summoned from the moon must have been known by the Sage of Six Paths. The other party definitely knew that the second Rinnegan had been born. To prevent his mother from being resurrected before Indra and Asura had grown up, the Sage of Six Paths would never allow this generation's Indra and Asura reincarnations to die easily. The newest novels are first released at Dingdian Novel Network. Moreover, if he were killed by a C-rank wind cutter with drastically reduced power, Sasuke Uchiha would not be worthy of being the male supporting character. Arriving next to Sasuke Uchiha, he was indeed still breathing. The wind blade only tore his clothes, leaving a scratch on his body, without revealing any bone. Izayoi squatted down and used basic medical ninjutsu to heal him. Pa. Just then, Izayoi seemed to have a hallucination, hearing a sound even crisper than a balloon popping. Following the sound, his expression focused. Bubbles that only Izayoi could see appeared around Sasuke Uchiha. Izayoi happened to see a bubble that had just burst, and a red beam flying towards him. Huh. Looking at the red beam rapidly enlarging in his eyes, Izayoi rarely showed a dumbfounded expression. Red. How many red perks did Sasuke Uchiha have? Is red the highest known level, or is it purple? But the prompt that immediately sounded in his mind told Izayoi that he was not seeing things. He had hit the jackpot. Ding! You have obtained the talent perk, Sage-ite, Red, Merge or Decompose. Merge. Izayoi hurriedly shouted in his heart, and at the same time, he was so excited that he couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth. But not knowing if anyone was secretly watching here, Izayoi still forcibly suppressed this impulse, causing the corners of his mouth to twitch slightly, looking a little funny. At this moment, Izayoi's mood could not be described in words. With Hinata as an example, Izayoi originally thought that it would take a long time to get Sasuke Uchiha's red perk. He was also prepared to find Sasuke Uchiha to fight as long as he had time in the next 5 years. If he still failed to get a red perk during the ninja school period, then Izayoi would slow down his growth rate and bring his strength to the same level as Sasuke Uchiha and Hinata. But unexpectedly, Izayoi's first no-rules duel yielded Sasuke Uchiha's Sage-ite Red. He actually encountered this extremely small probability. At this moment, Izayoi finally understood the feelings of those lucky ones. Chapter 18, The Second Indra Otsutsuki. Izayoi, who had hit the jackpot, wasn't in a hurry to feel the changes brought about by the Sage-eye. He first cleared his thoughts and focused on treating Sasuke Uchiha. Looking at Sasuke Uchiha, whose eye sockets were a bit dark, indicating he hadn't had a good time these past few days, Izayoi's eyes showed some pity. The world of Hokage wasn't short of orphans with tragic fates, but Izayoi remembered only 2 who had a happy family first, only to lose everything later. One was Nagato, and the other was Sasuke Uchiha. But compared to Nagato, who had Yahiko and Konan, as well as Jiraiya, Sasuke Uchiha, who was arranged by Itachi Uchiha, was undoubtedly even more miserable. From beginning to end, he was either walking on the road of revenge, or after learning the truth, the idea of revolution had just arisen, and he was immediately suppressed by the only companion he recognized. After that, in order to atone for his sins, he constantly collected information about the Otsutsuki clan in the shinobi world, not returning home for several years. If Izayoi didn't change Sasuke Uchiha's fate, then Sasuke Uchiha would be even more miserable than in the original work. After all, before graduating in the original work, Sasuke Uchiha was the most popular top student in the school. But now, the top student was Izayoi, the second seat was Hinata, and he could only compete for 3rd place. After graduation, he would continue to suffer setbacks, watching Naruto Uzumaki, the dead last, surpass him at a flying speed. Should I help him? Izayoi thought to himself. At this moment, Sasuke Uchiha, who had fainted, also woke up. Looking at Sasuke Uchiha, whose eyeballs were covered with bloodshot, Izayoi made a decision in his heart and said, "Your condition is too bad right now. Go back and recuperate for a while, and come back to me when you've fully recovered." Sasuke Uchiha didn't speak, but sat up, looking at the chest where the wound had healed, but there was still a small scar. In his mind, he couldn't help but recall the battle just now. Whether it was taijutsu sparring or ninjutsu, he was no match for Izayoi at all. That coherent attack, and the lower body that supported that attack speed, were not on the same level at all. Moreover, this scar, and the green light he saw when he opened his eyes, it seemed that Izayoi also mastered medical ninjutsu. Thinking of this, Sasuke Uchiha immediately felt a burst of frustration. I lost. Sasuke Uchiha wasn't someone who couldn't afford to lose either. Just like Naruto Uzumaki's feelings, he didn't dislike Izayoi. Although it was a no-rules duel, it was a very dangerous thing for him to suddenly release ninjutsu just now. Therefore, Sasuke Uchiha readily admitted his defeat. I only won by luck. Izayoi patted Sasuke Uchiha on the shoulder and sincerely praised, "You're also very powerful. I thought I was the only one in the class who had mastered the 5 elements release, but I didn't expect you to know it too." As expected of a genius of the Uchiha clan. After saying that, Izayoi stood up and extended a hand to Sasuke Uchiha, saying, "I took advantage today. Let's have another match next time." Looking at Izayoi, who showed no arrogance and even praised him, Sasuke Uchiha felt a warm current in his heart. Finally acknowledged, he revealed his first smile since waking up, reaching out to grasp Izayoi's hand, and laughed, "I won't lose next time." Pulling Sasuke Uchiha up, Izayoi extended his index and middle fingers to him, saying, "Then you have to train hard, I'm very strong. Just you wait." Sasuke Uchiha, filled with fighting spirit, formed the seal of reconciliation with Izayoi. This scene was also reflected on a transparent crystal ball. Seeing this, Hiruzen Sarutobi, puffing smoke from his pipe, couldn't help but reveal a gratified smile, saying, "The newborn leaves are beginning to sprout." At this time, Sasuke Uchiha was at his most vulnerable. To prevent him from seeking death, Hiruzen Sarutobi, who had promised Itachi Uchiha to take care of Sasuke Uchiha and also to ensure that Itachi Uchiha could be a spy with peace of mind, would not ignore Sasuke Uchiha. The Anbu had been secretly watching Sasuke Uchiha from the shadows. The news of the two leaving the ninja school and heading to the abandoned training grounds reached Hiruzen Sarutobi's ears immediately. Fortunately, Izayoi hadn't been talking to himself just now, and when he was dumbfounded, he had kept his head down and hadn't acted exaggerated or strangely. Otherwise, he might have been subjected to the Yamanaka clan's mind-reading technique. Hiruzen Sarutobi was no stranger to Izayoi. This generation of newborns was very special, with the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki and the heirs of various ninja clans in the same class. Izayoi, who was able to surpass them and become the top student, had long entered Hiruzen Sarutobi's sights. Through a year of observation, he had also discovered that Izayoi had already mastered the Shadow Clone technique in low-level wind release, and often trained with the Hyuga clan's main family's young lady at the abandoned training grounds. Every era has outstanding commoner geniuses. Like Orochimaru, like Minato Namikaze, like the unknown Yakushi Kabuto. The newest novels are first released here. In fact, even Kakashi Hatake could be considered a commoner genius. After all, he didn't have a bloodline limit. Compared to these commoner geniuses, Izayoi wasn't particularly special, and couldn't even be called the best. However, such talent was enough to warrant ki cultivation. As long as he was cultivated well, he would at least become an all-rounder Jonin in the future. If he could master a forbidden technique, he might even become an elite Jonin, a trump card combat force. Therefore, Izayoi had been on Hiruzen Sarutobi's observation list for a long time. After separating from Sasuke Uchiha, Izayoi returned home while summoning the light screen that only he could see. At this time, in the perk column, behind the Otsutsuki Bloodline red, at the top, was no longer the golden super cage aptitude, but the Seijai red. The appearance of this perk has not yet brought obvious changes to Izayoi. However, Izayoi is very sure that at this moment, there are unknown changes happening within his body. Seijai is different from the real Seijai Rinnegan. It is an exclusive perk of Otsutsuki Indra, inherited from the Six Paths Sage's yin release chakra and spiritual energy, representing the ultimate yin power. Moreover, this perk is not Indra's chakra, which means that the ultimate yin power Izayoi obtained does not contain Indra's will, but pure yin power separated from Hagoromo Otsutsuki. Reincarnations still need to be recognized, or gradually tap into this power through growth and talent. But Izayoi doesn't need to. He will become stronger rapidly, just like Otsutsuki Indra. In the next few years, Izayoi's spiritual energy and yin release chakra will skyrocket. I should be considered the second Otsutsuki Indra now. Izayoi chuckled inwardly. If he could see Otsutsuki Indra's talent perk, Izayoi is very sure that his perk would not have Uchiha bloodline, but a higher level Otsutsuki bloodline. It is this bloodline that grants him the physique to possess infinite eye power without needing to switch eyes. Thinking that he can also release 5 elements release without needing hand seals, Izayoi doesn't need to guess to know that Otsutsuki Indra's Otsutsuki bloodline level must also be red level. As for above red, it should be impossible. Otherwise, the reincarnation of Indra's chakra would not need to unify the two extremes to awaken the Rinnegan, and could directly transform from Sharingan into Rinnegan like Hagoromo Otsutsuki. The current Izayoi is equal to the second Otsutsuki Indra. Only by raising the Otsutsuki bloodline to a higher level will he become the second Hagoromo Otsutsuki and Hamura Otsutsuki. Chapter 19, Izayoi and the Little Sister-in-Law. Konoha Year 57, July 23. Konoha, Hyuga Clan Grounds. Bang, bang, bang. Inside the dojo of the clan head's residence, a series of crisp yet heavy impacts echoed. The scene cuts inside, revealing a boy and a girl engaged in taijutsu sparring. That series of sounds emanated from their hands. Hinata and Neji Hyuga both had veins bulging at their temples, their hands moving like afterimages, fingertips wreathed in blue flames, attacking each other's pressure points. Every strike failed, either blocked before touching the body, or interrupted by the opponent finding a weakness, forcing them to switch from offense to defense. The constant collision of chakra created roaring gusts of wind. However, this rhythm tested one's will. A moment's carelessness could allow the opponent to seize an opening, resulting in complete defeat. Sure enough, after dozens of rounds, a crisp poke ended the battle. Paw. Under Neji Hyuga's wide-eyed, shocked gaze, a serious-looking Hinata poked him, mercilessly driving chakra into his body. Instantly, the chakra on Neji Hyuga's hands vanished. Immediately after, a storm of attacks rained down on him, each strike injecting chakra into his body, sealing his chakra flow while inflicting intense pain. However, Neji Hyuga gritted his teeth, refusing to cry out. After the combo ended, Hinata retracted her hands, the veins at her temples subsided, and she looked at Neji Hyuga, who was sitting on the ground, and said softly, "Neji-ni-san, thank you for the guidance." Seeing this, Hiyashi Hyuga, who was not far away, couldn't help but smile with satisfaction. Then, before Hinata could look over, he tightened his face again, looking at Neji Hyuga expressionlessly and said, "Neji, go and get healed." "Yes, clan head Sama." Neji Hyuga lowered his head, concealing the unwillingness and hatred in his heart, and bowed slightly to Hinata, "Thank you for the guidance, young lady." After saying that, he turned and left. Hinata didn't notice the change in Neji Hyuga's emotions. After completing the clan monthly exam, she immediately came to Hiyashi Hyuga, her face full of anticipation. "Father, I want to take Hanabi out to play, can I?" "Yes, go," Hiyashi Hyuga nodded. "Thank you, father." Hinata smiled faintly, then trotted out of the dojo, took Hanabi, who was 3 years old this year, out of the clan grounds to play with Izayoi. It had been exactly 3 years since she went out to train with Izayoi. In these 3 years, Hinata's changes were evident from her defeat of Neji Hyuga and Hiyashi Hyuga's attitude. This wasn't the first time she had defeated Neji Hyuga. From the beginning of the year, she had been victorious in every encounter with Neji Hyuga. Starting from the second half of the year, she gradually began to overwhelm him. The pressure point strike tests not only the Byakugan but also chakra control. And in terms of chakra control, among her peers, only Izayoi was more outstanding than Hinata. Even Sakura Haruno, whose perk level was purple, couldn't match Hinata's chakra control, as she practiced the pressure point strike every day. Defeating her cousin, whom she had always feared, caused Hinata to completely transform, becoming so confident. Both Hiyashi Hyuga and the clan elders of the main house unanimously decided that Hinata would be the future heir to the main house. Because of this, many main house elders were urging Hiyashi Hyuga to apply the caged bird seal to Hanabi. However, Hiyashi Hyuga refused, using the excuse that his wife had passed away, and he wanted to give Hanabi a wonderful childhood, deciding to wait until Hanabi was 12 years old to make a decision. At the same time, Hiyashi Hyuga no longer prevented Hinata from being with Izayoi, even though he could see that the feelings between the two were gradually undergoing a qualitative change. He even allowed Hinata to take Hanabi out to play with Izayoi. No one knew Hiyashi Hyuga's little thoughts. He seemed to be playing a very big game, wanting neither of his daughters to be branded with the caged bird seal. Naturally, Izayoi was unaware of this. He still thought that Hinata and Hanabi could go out because Hinata had performed excellently, establishing her as the Hyuga clan's heir. As for Hinata stabilizing her position, which might lead to Hanabi being branded with the caged bird seal ahead of time, Izayoi hadn't thought of that. Even if he knew, Izayoi wouldn't care. The caged bird seal was just a curse mark. In terms of level, it wasn't even as good as Orochimaru's Earth Curse Mark and Heaven Curse Mark. Even if the Hyuga clan had no way to remove the caged bird seal, Izayoi could still remove this curse mark once he mastered Yin-Yang Release. Even if Hanabi was branded with the caged bird seal, it would only be a temporary pain. After all, she hadn't even graduated from the Ninja Academy by the end of Shippuden. Whether the Byakugan had defects or not had no impact at all. Knock, knock, knock. Oni-chan, I'm here to play with you, open the door quickly. The sound of knocking and childish shouts kept entering Izayoi's ears. Opening the door, one tall and one short figure appeared in front of him. The shorter figure directly pounced over, hugged Izayoi's waist, and shouted, Oni-chan, let's go out and play. 3-year-old Hanabi, dressed in a custom-made pink kimono, had already developed the habit of wearing kimonos at a young age. Her short black hair just covered her ears, with her bangs parted in the middle. Her chubby little face was round and adorable, making people want to pinch it. And Izayoi did exactly that. Pinching Hanabi's small face, Izayoi smiled and said, Alright, what does Hanabi want to play today? In Izayoi's eyes, several bubbles of different colors floated around Hanabi. Princess of the Byakugan Gold. Bloodline Limit Byakugan Purple. Otsutsuki Bloodline Blue. Jonin Potential Blue. Chakra Control Blue. Compared to those civilians and ordinary ninja clan children, Hanabi's stats were very impressive. The only thing she lacked compared to Hinata was the gold-level princess of the Byakugan. The Byakugan that was stolen by Toneri Otsutsuki in the movie and evolved into the Tenseigan in just a few days, Hanabi's Byakugan purity was also extremely high. She was only one level away from having the same perks as Hinata. The other perks were exactly the same as Hinata's, making her a weakened version of Hinata. Like Hinata, she also had the qualifications to defy fate. Izayoi naturally loved this cute and incredibly promising little sister-in-law very much. I want to eat mochi dumplings and ride high up. Hanabi stood on tiptoes, wanting to climb onto Izayoi's body. Okay, today Hanabi gets to decide. Izayoi ruffled Hanabi's little head, then squatted down, letting Hanabi straddle his shoulders. Holding Hanabi's small hands, Izayoi stood up and instructed Hinata, who was watching them with a smile, Hinata, close the door. Yes. After closing the door, Izayoi took the Hyuga sisters to the bustling shopping street. Since Hinata's mother passed away, unknowingly, Izayoi and Hinata's outings had gradually turned into outings for three. He vaguely remembered how heartbreakingly Hinata had cried that day. After all, before Hanabi grew up, only Izayoi and her mother gave her the tenderness and love she wanted. After her mother's passing, Hinata's dependence on Izayoi reached an even higher level. It was from that day on that her feelings gradually began to change qualitatively. To prevent Hanabi from becoming a second version of herself, Hinata cultivated even harder, wanting her younger sister to grow up happily. Whenever she had time, she would bring her younger sister out to find Izayoi. Because in Hinata's eyes, Izayoi was better at taking care of children than her father. Her father's aura was too intimidating, with that serious expression and high-pressure education. If it weren't for the love her mother gave her, Hinata would have collapsed long ago. Now that her mother was gone, Hinata couldn't let Hanabi follow in her footsteps. Looking at Hanabi sitting on Izayoi's shoulders with a face full of smiles, Hinata felt that her decision was very correct. Chapter 20, Future SS Rank Ninjutsu. Just as Izayoi and Hinata were accompanying Hanabi shopping. Near the Uchiha clan, below a massive waterfall on the Naka River. If a member of the Hyuga clan were here and activated their Byakugan, they would discover a cave hidden beneath the waterfall. At this moment, a tremendous sound echoed from within the cave, but it was masked by the sound of the waterfall. Touching the mountain walls around the waterfall, one could feel occasional tremors. Blue light tore through the darkness within the cave. A blue and white sphere, like a water-filled balloon, rapidly expanded. Then, this basketball-sized ball of energy flew into the darkness. Boom! Accompanied by the sound of an explosion, a surge of air roared, and gravel scattered. The dust and mist did not rush out of the cave, as it was dispersed by a gust of wind. Once everything calmed down, another energy ball appeared, flying again into the deeper darkness, setting off a violent explosion. The cave was being blasted out by such energy balls. The core is complete, now I can create smaller balls inside. Izayoi's shadow clone appeared at the cave entrance where there was light, sorting out today's gains. Izayoi had mastered the basics of the Super Hurricane Combination Sphere, an original technique from the TV animation, which was to turn the Rasengan into a volume second only to the Big Ball Rasengan. This took Izayoi a full 2 years. Izayoi finally understood why Naruto Uzumaki needed shadow clone assistance to perform the Big Ball Rasengan after 3 years of training. Without even knowing the one-handed Rasengan, wanting to turn the Rasengan into that volume while maintaining balance and preventing chakra from exploding was simply impossible. Even Izayoi spent 2 full years improving his chakra control to this level. If it was just gathering chakra together and making it so huge, it wouldn't be that difficult. The difficulty lies in gathering so much chakra together and rotating it at ultra-high speed. This is simply hell-level difficulty. After all, the Rasengan is already the top-level form transformation, with a learning difficulty of a rank. The Big Ball Rasengan is definitely between A and S rank. No wonder S-rank ninjutsu are called secret arts that cannot be mastered with 100% certainty, even with great effort and talent. Even creating such a large energy ball is already so difficult. Wanting to create 5 balls inside it, the difficulty is definitely no less than Naruto Uzumaki perfecting the wind release, Rasenshuriken. And then injecting 5 kinds of nature transformations into the 5 small balls at the same time, the difficulty makes one's head hurt just thinking about it. If successful, the power is secondary, the difficulty of learning it would definitely be above S rank, meaning SS rank. Even Asura Otsutsuki couldn't achieve this. However, it became Izayoi's goal. His current potential is even more astonishing than Asura Otsutsuki, who needed to obtain power from Hagoromo Otsutsuki. If his purple level chakra control isn't good enough, then he'll upgrade the chakra control perk to the golden level. As long as he successfully develops the Super Hurricane Combination Sphere, he can be like Naruto Uzumaki in the future, relying on one trick to dominate the world. No matter what enemy he faces, he can solve it with a Rasengan. Sitting cross-legged in front of the waterfall, Izayoi's shadow clone continued to condense chakra with both hands, creating a basketball-sized energy ball, but this time he didn't throw it. He continued to train until he ran out of chakra, then the shadow clone turned into a cloud of white mist and disappeared. The fatigue and experience were all fed back to the main body. Izayoi, who was holding rice dumplings and feeding Hanabi, merely raised his eyebrows slightly, then returned to normal. Even Hinata, who was constantly peeking at him, didn't notice Izayoi's change. Since mastering the Rasengan and attempting to develop the Super Hurricane Combination Sphere, Izayoi has rarely trained with his main body. He mostly lets his shadow clone train in the cave, and even when his main body trains, it's just accompanying Hinata at the abandoned training grounds. He is very sure that Hiruzen Sarutobi has spied on him with the crystal ball telepathy. In the past 2 years, Izayoi has fought Sasuke Uchiha every week or 2. He doesn't believe that his and Sasuke Uchiha's no-rules duels haven't attracted Hiruzen Sarutobi's attention. After all, before Itachi Uchiha left Konoha, he first reported to him and then went to threaten Danzo Shimura. If he wasn't afraid of the Byakugan being discovered, Izayoi would even want to activate the Byakugan to observe whether there were any Anbu monitoring him. Since he always lets his shadow clone train, Izayoi has long controlled the amount of chakra in the shadow clone, and the fatigue feedback is at an acceptable level. After Hanabi finished eating the rice dumplings, Izayoi accompanied her everywhere, using piggyback rides to take her to Shunshin, or climbing trees and walking on water. Although Hanabi hasn't started training yet, she has seen Hinata and Neji Hyuga's battles, and she has also seen Hinata and Izayoi training and fighting. She still, like in the original story, wants to become a gentle and powerful existence like her sister. Therefore, besides being a bit gluttonous, Hanabi doesn't like playing with her peers. She prefers Izayoi to take her to run on walls and experience the thrill of a roller coaster. When she reaches the age to extract chakra and starts training, she will definitely be even more clingy. Oni-chan, goodbye. Bye-bye. After playing with Hanabi until dusk, Izayoi smiled and waved goodbye to his clingy little sister-in-law. Then, he didn't go home, but went to the market to buy some ingredients, and Shunshin to the empty Uchiha clan grounds, where only Sasuke Uchiha was present. You've come. Sasuke Uchiha, who was training in the courtyard, looked at Izayoi, who was carrying 2 bags, with a face full of fighting spirit. Let's eat first, then fight later, and take a break while we're at it, Izayoi said with a smile. Okay. The newest novel is first published at. Sasuke Uchiha didn't refuse. After night fell, the two of them were eating hot pot on the veranda. When the night was quiet, two small figures shuttled through the clan grounds, entering a forest like arrows. Bang bang bang, whoosh whoosh whoosh. The sounds of objects colliding, heavy objects landing, and projectiles piercing the air, echoed continuously in the forest at night. Boom. Before long, an explosion sounded, and red flames bloomed. But soon, these flames quickly extinguished. Half an hour later, two small figures walked out of the forest. In the moonlight, Izayoi and Sasuke Uchiha formed a sharp contrast. Izayoi's clothes were neat, as if spotless. Sasuke Uchiha's clothes were tattered, and his body was covered with burn marks. Those exposed skin still had faint scars. However, the tired boy's eyes sparkled, obviously having gained a lot. I won again. Izayoi looked at Sasuke Uchiha and smiled. According to the agreement, I want to take a look at your family's ninjutsu library. Whatever, it's just those few things anyway, Sasuke Uchiha said indifferently. After the Uchiha clan was destroyed, the bodies of the clansmen were buried by the village. In exchange, all the scrolls would be taken away. Even the family's inheritance only had some low-level release technique scrolls left. Sasuke Uchiha had asked the third Hokage, and the village hadn't touched his family's advanced ninjutsu scrolls, they should have been taken away by Itachi Uchiha. Sasuke Uchiha didn't care that the village took away the family's scrolls. Because the third Hokage had promised him that when he became a ninja and grew to the point where he could take over the Uchiha clan, he could apply to the village to get back the land deed and ninjutsu scrolls. He didn't have the strength to keep those things now. Izayoi knew that Hiruzen Sarutobi was telling the truth. Apart from secret techniques like Izanagi and Izanami, the Uchiha clan's ninjutsu scrolls really didn't have anything worth coveting. Compared to a powerful Uchiha combatant, these little trinkets aren't worth coveting at all. Just like the inheritance Izayoi's parents left behind. However, Sasuke Uchiha's family's ninjutsu library is still very useful to Izayoi. His mastery of form manipulation is extremely high, but his nature manipulation is almost zero. Cultivating the 5 elements release can improve nature manipulation. To perfect the Super Hurricane Combination Sphere, Izayoi must master 5 types of nature manipulation, and they must be strong enough to fuse with the Super Hurricane Combination Sphere. For wind release nature manipulation, Izayoi can learn from Naruto Uzumaki of the original work. As for the other 4 types of nature manipulation, he can only comprehend them himself through practicing ninjutsu. Or, after graduation, he can ask a Jonin instructor for guidance. Of course, there is also a shortcut to possessing top-level nature manipulation without cultivation. That is, awakening the Rinnegan or Tenseigan. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories. And never miss out on a great listen.